What is up, wrestling fans? Welcome to episode number 646 of the Smark Moment Smack Talk podcast, hot tags of the week. We're going to be breaking down everything that happened in the world of pro wrestling over the past few days we feel like talking about. We're going to recap some TV stuff, get into some logos, some title changes, some new titles changing, some titles getting vacated, all sorts of different topics here. So as we go along here, we want to know what you have to say. So drop your thoughts in the comments section below. And if you don't know who we are, who are going to be talking about this whole episode, I'm Tony Mango, joined as always by Callum Wiggins.
Hello.
And Robert E. Felice.
Hey.
As I said, drop those comments below. And if you're on YouTube, make sure you click on all the good little buttons you can see on your screen right now. The thanks button helps us out on the monetary side of things. The subscribe button's totally free. Make sure that you are subscribed. Hit that like button too. That'll boost us on the algorithm. Hit the share button to pass us around. Ring that notification bell. Sorry about my voice. Ring that notification bell to get your email alerts of when we go live for things like the AEW Dynasty post show immediately following the pay-per-view this Sunday night. Of course, if you want to join the Patreon, patreon.com/smarkoutmoment, or the YouTube channel membership are the exact same things. The Darkcast, the Pick Your Poison tier, you can find all that stuff, equal parts across the board there. Redbubble and TeePublic is where you can pick up your merchandise too. That all helps out quite a bit. And normally I'd be saying that would help you out on the Funko Pop contest that we had recently, but that is now officially over. We have our 3 winners. So congratulations to Reese and to Ashton, and who was the third one that I have on the screen here? I don't think I know the other person's name yet. I think it might be Jim. Yes, James. That's what it is. He finally got back to me right when I was saying this. So thank you to those and everybody else who participated in the contest. That's, of course, you're going to be getting your Funko Pops pretty soon. And keep in mind, too, the Discord is a great place for you to chat it up too, not only in the comments below and social media and stuff like that, but Discord is another thing that, keep it popping over there. And we will come back around to plugs later on for anybody that's like super into that idea, because we've got hot tags to talk about. We got the whole podcast to get into before we get into the rest of the plugs. So quick mentions of a few things here. And we always like to have our congratulations when it comes to certain things like this. Ruby Soho and Angelo, Big Hand Ange, I was going to say. They're going to have a baby. So congratulations to the happy couple. That was announced after Dynamite this week. And, sometimes storylines end up being reality. As far as I'm aware, were they like a couple before they got into the storyline?
They've been a couple for a few years, I think.
Oh, okay, so that makes perfect sense then. I thought that they were just sort of paired off as like, it's be an interesting story, and that it's like, how that happens where it's like, Rusev and Lana weren't together before they got paired off, and then they just, it led to that. Cool news. Always good to hear that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's really exciting for Ruby and Angelo. This puts a bust in our predictions of Ruby winning the Owen Hart Cup, but much better things on the horizon for them, and I'm very excited for them. And as Sean Rustap put it, their shoot pregnancy.
A shoot pregnancy. That's for wrestling fans. I love seeing the reactions for like that it's getting more popular now, so of course like more people are getting into it and all. But Caroline will be like, like somebody saying like a heel turn in like some kind of a movie or whatever. And, I love using pro wrestling terms outside of that. That's one of those quick congratulations type things. Let's switch to... We got a lot of title talk to talk about. I guess we should get into some of this stuff. So this is going to factor in a little bit of what happened on Monday Night Raw and all. But one of the first things that happened, actually it was the first thing that happened on Monday Night Raw this week. Unfortunately, Rhea Ripley had to vacate the Women's World Championship. Her injuries, I guess, just kind of caught up to her. And then she might have exasperated that when it came to the whole situation with Liv Morgan And as far as I'm aware, that might have been what actually triggered this. Like, she might have been able to work through her wrist injury if that wouldn't have happened. But nevertheless, Rhea Ripley no longer a women's world champion, and they are immediately just going to crown a new one next week, which I don't know what, of course, their plan is, and if they have something in mind that, like, I can't think of yet. But I just kind of feel like that might be a little bit of a mistake. I think that it would have made a lot more sense in my mind, at least, not knowing what other elements they want to do, to just have like a little mini tournament and then crown the winner at Backlash. Or, you know, that way you can have something like the Raw and the SmackDown people all compete. So it boosts the amount of people that you might see win that championship. But then again, maybe their plan is to just do something as simple as Liv Morgan wins and they just want to speed the process along and move on to the next thing or something. But how do you guys think this is going to play out? Who do you think is going to win that belt?
I think it might be like pointing towards Liv, but then Becky just swoops in and gets it, and then Liv gets to fight Becky for a little bit.
I could see that. Kind of cement that heel turn in a way where she's mad that the quote-unquote Liv Morgan revenge tour still didn't result in her winning the championship.
It still revolves around Becky, which honestly, this somehow perfectly plays into the build to WrestleMania where they were doing that. So that would be kind of serendipitous. But outside of that, I think they're doing this quickly so that they can have a champion going into the draft, because I think they want all the titles sorted going into that. I think they want to increase viewership to TV, which I'm perfectly okay with. You're going to hear that a lot from me if WWE keeps this up going forward. I'm perfectly happy with what they're doing, where they're trying to make the TV shows interesting and fill them with things that actually could enhance stories going forward.
Yeah, it does feel like a little bit sudden to immediately go into crowning the champion after Rhea Ripley got injured. But as Rob says, like, it's important to get eyes onto your weekly television shows, and there's a good possibility that the plan would have been, you know, Rhea versus Liv at Backlash, but now they can kind of focus on other matches and kind of build up whoever the next champion is going to be. Maybe they won't even have a match or a title defense at Backlash. We can utilize whatever the match ends up being to be the catalyst for whatever the first match will end up being, because you kind of got to use this match both to establish a champion and then also establish a challenger at the same time, because you're only about a couple of weeks away from Backlash anyway. So it'll feel a bit odd if you have someone win and then you've got to spend the next week determining who the immediate challenger will be, and it'll just feel a bit cold. Whereas this one, you can have the match, determine who the next champion's going to be, and then do so in a way which immediately establishes a feud moving forward. So I think this is a sensible way of doing things. I think realistically this could be one of those blessing in disguises, because even though it would have been good for her character and story that Rhea would end up holding this title for a lot longer and going into WrestleMania again when this, like, the back of a 2-year dominant title reign, realistically that could have gotten stale very quickly, because she's already held the title for a year. She hasn't actually had that many defenses or feuds because she's just been so dominant and had quite little matches because she's been mainly focusing on being as much a manager as she has been a wrestler. So now you get to freshen it up a title, establish a new champion, and then have Rhea come in, beat them. It's a bit fresher, a bit more exciting, and can help fuel both a Liv Morgan heel turn and a Rhea Ripley babyface turn, which is probably the direction they were going to go in long term anyway. Rhea's super popular, she has to be a babyface eventually, and this is just a way to speed up that process. I think in terms of who should win, they should just keep it simple and just go with Liv. I think she is right now the focal point. That's who you want to be champion when Rhea Ripley comes back. So I don't really see the need to muddy the waters anymore or transfer the heat onto like a feud between Liv and Becky by having Becky win and then Liv beating her for it later on. I think you should keep it almost firmly focused on Liv is the champion and is pretty much using every single week, even though she's going to be feuding other people, just mocking Rhea Ripley and like making jokes at her expense about how she's doing in rehab and in the on the treatment table. Hope she's feeling better soon, and just basically build up to SummerSlam or whatever the big show is that Rhea will be able to return and just win the title back. I would definitely, like, as soon as Rhea's available to go in their first title defense, I'd have her win the title back. Just and then you could do maybe some back and forth stuff as well. But I think it's a real opportunity to take Liv Morgan to give her an opportunity to make it to the next level, because her previous title reign did not accomplish that. This is probably her second and last big chance to be established as like a potential main event talent for the women's division. So I think they should at least explore that opportunity.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting too to see who ends up on which rosters, because if they are doing this before the draft, that means that unless they pull some kind of weird switcheroo, because they haven't announced who's going to be competing and in what fashion on Raw. They haven't said like, all right, it's going to be a fatal 4-way and here are the 4 competitors, or it's a one-on-one match, or, any of those kind of, all they've said is like new champion will be crowned. Unless they plan on doing something where they're saying like, hey, the draft is coming up, so we've decided to invite people from SmackDown over to compete for this too. And then that opens up everything. I would assume that means their plan is, we're going with one of these people that's already on Raw, and we have at least a game plan enough for the next few months that we want to do something with those particular women, where the obvious thing would be it's Becky and Liv that would go back and forth. Yeah, it's like some kind of a feud, and you can have like Liv against Raquel if she comes back in time. You can have maybe Becky wins the belt and it's like Becky and Liv feuding for the next 2 months, and then it's Liv after that, or maybe they plan on doing something with Shayna or with Chelsea or, Candice, like all these other kind of people that are currently in there. They might have plans, or that they are looking at this as like, well, that's the champion we want is from this list. And then the rest of what we can do for the months going forward, we'll figure that out in the draft and we don't need to think in advance. But it is a different time frame. So we're in this this lull period where we can't quite tell how they're going to do things, because we can't judge it based off of exactly how they used to do it in the past. Because so many times in previous years when Vince was in charge, the go-to answer here would be, it's way too obvious if Becky or Liv were to win, so they're probably going to do something really stupid and just be like, hey, Tegan won the title and haha, we got you. And then she drops it in a few weeks, and then we end up with the belt on Becky anyway, and then we go, well, why couldn't she have just wanted to begin? Like, we have so many instances of weird things like that happening, especially around draft time. Or like, why did Rey Mysterio win that WWE title just to drop it immediately to John Cena on Raw that one time? Like, they do stuff like that once in a while, but Triple H doesn't seem like he has that kind of philosophy. So if they felt confident enough to immediately just say, Rhea's dropping the belt and next week we're going to crown a champion, they must have a little bit of a game plan. And Becky and Liv seem to be like the most easily people to transition to, rather than we gotcha, it's Nia, or a sudden groundswell of push for Maxine or the return of Sonya Deville or something. I do think that it's probably going to be Liv, but I think that there is a discussion worth putting it on Becky so that Liv can then turn heel and then maybe win it from Becky or something. It's going to be interesting to see, though. And I fully agree with, and we were all kind of talking about this before, and Callum said most of these points right a few minutes ago. This could end up being a blessing in disguise for Rhea, because she could have gotten stale. Like, I don't know how many people she would have had that it would have been worthwhile to feud with for another full year as champion, just to lead up to like a Bianca Belair match or something. So a little bit of time off. people start missing mommy even more. And then when she comes back, easily huge pop, major baby face. Maybe by then the Judgment Day's already disbanded and we don't have to worry about her being a part of that anymore. And
she'll be back in 3 months. Don't get your hopes up.
You think 3? I thought that the quote was 8.
Where did I
it definitely wasn't. Yeah, I think the number I heard was 3 from other things going forward.
I mean, that's much better.
I don't think it'll be super long term. If it's 8 months, that's obviously that would lead into pretty much Royal Rumble time. I think that because then at that point you won't have Liv Morgan be a champion for 8 months. So then you'd have to start thinking about ways you've got to fluctuate it. I'm kind of going with the idea that Rhea will at least be available. So I'm kind of penciling in SummerSlam in my mind. But then if they come up with more information, they've been a bit like vague. Like WWE or Rhea herself has not officially announced how long they think she's going to be out for.
I had thought that I had came across 8 months before, but maybe I'm misconstruing that with somebody else. Well, of course, I mean, they've, in the past, it's been like, you 9 months, you'll be back, and they're back in 4, or it's like 3 months, you'll be back, and they're back in 7, you know?
I think you're thinking of either Charlotte or Punk.
I might be thinking
they're
Punk.
Both around that range?
Yeah, I might be thinking Punk. Charlotte, I mean, she was like 2 weeks later, she's like fucking at the treadmill doing more than I do. So I'm like, I don't trust that at all, you know? But,
and I know that some people were upset by the whole idea of, well, if she is only going to be out for a short period of time, why is she forfeiting when we just had Rollins hold the title while Reigns held the title without defending? And I think one of the reasons that they're doing this, and even the push for like next week's champion, is because you have to make it feel like, no, Cody's champion, Paul Levesque era, new era, everybody's going to defend.
Yeah, it's a different era, and we don't do the shtick of making you wait forever. So we're going to give you something that'll boost up the Monday Night Raw viewing, and like you said, like have everybody as a champion heading into the draft as well, so that makes that even bigger of a, you know.
Well,
Friday Night SmackDown selects so and so. Whoa, they got a champion, and you know, like
the reason I said that is because I think like Cody's been very firm. I'm a SmackDown guy, which I think is hysterical because he was a Raw guy the entire time, won the belt as a Raw guy. I'm hoping that they just institute a rule of champions can't get drafted.
See, I think that they should keep the champions need to be drafted, because then why bother switching the Raw tag team titles and stuff? We'll talk about that in a minute too.
Because they look better.
But I just think
it looks better and it sounds better. The Raw tag team title sounded stupid. Okay.
Well, all right. Let's get into it then. Let's, because I know that this is something that you and I disagree with. The Raw Tag Team Championship has been renamed. It's the World Tag Team Championship now, and we can assume that probably tonight we're going to get something on SmackDown that says the equivalent of that. They haven't announced it ahead of time, as far as I'm aware. Let me double check to see if there's anything on that. They have a fatal 4-way to determine the number 1 contenders for the SmackDown tag team titles. That's what they're still calling them, at least on this breakdown.
They'll probably get new belts tonight.
More than likely, yeah. That they'll just say
it will be the WWE tag titles.
It'll be kind of the way that they did this, where it's like, all right, let's introduce these new tag titles, and here's our champions that can gloat about being the champions, and then now we're going to establish the fatal 4-way and, you know, do that. I'm assuming, based off of the way that they've named these things before, that those are probably going to be the WWE Tag Team Championships.
Yep, just like Cody Rhodes is now the WWE champion.
Which is strange, too, because when you look at the page, it's still not updated in a way that makes a whole lot of sense.
They're still calling it the Undisputed Championship, but they've dropped Universal completely, which tells me that Hunter just didn't like it.
Hunter doesn't like the Universal thing, yeah, even though...
It's like, it's the WWE title, which is good. Just drop the name Universal because there's 2 champions. But, I mean, Undisputed. There's 2 champions.
And if you go to the page, though, WWE.com/superstars, Cody's still listed twice. He's still listed as Universal Champion, and they're still counting the days. If you go to his page, like his actual WWE.com/superstars/Cody-Rhodes, not dashing, dash like hyphen, it says that he is a SmackDown star, and it lists him as WWE Championship and Universal Championship, and it's got the titles, it's got, you know, the updated graphics and all, the old blue Universal title still on there. So they haven't fully committed to that, but they are, you know, they're slowly switching that over. And you know, I've said this before, I'm going to repeat myself again. I know Rob and I completely disagree on this. I don't like when we have the world title and the WWE title, because I never liked when there's no difference between that, when WWE stands for World Wrestling Entertainment and they're both defended worldwide, and technically the WWE Championship is the World Heavyweight Championship. So there's the WWE World Heavyweight Championship and then the World Heavyweight Championship. It sounds kind of stupid.
But here's where I'll probably echo what Callum would say if you get around to asking him, which is, in this case, it's just a name. And as somebody who grew up with this when they were originally changing the names to the World Championship and the WWE Championship, I'm very okay with this. How do you get around this? It's very simple. When you're writing your articles, you don't put WWE in front of anything having to do with the World Championship, the Women's World Championship, or the World Tag Team Championship. And I like that they all relatively they have a similar look to them, but it's not like, here's the WWE Championship with a different colored strap.
What's weird about the color, though, is if you want to go with the idea of you can switch these belts at any time because they're not designated Raw or SmackDown anymore, like the women's titles and the tag titles, the World Tag Team titles have red on them now.
That's why I said you just don't draft champions.
They're booking themselves into, like, we have an out, but then we also booked ourselves into the corner. So I think that's strange, that it's like you created a problem in the process of fixing one. But no,
because you just don't, like, I think most of what they were getting rid of there was a stupid, I'm the WWE Raw Tag Team Champion. It's a stupid name. It's always a stupid name. So glad it's done with that. I really don't care. Granted, I wouldn't want to see the belts with the red on SmackDown, but I'm sure they would just easily change that backing to blue. But
I mean, that's the easiest thing to do, is to just have another set of titles where you have blue on there. And then if they were to draft over Awesome Truth, which I highly, highly doubt, by the way, that Awesome Truth is getting drafted over to SmackDown, that it would just be
I highly doubt their champions beyond next week.
Really? I think that they're retaining, and that they're dropping those belts to the Creed brothers once the Creed brothers join up with Chad Gable.
Nah, I think we give it to DIY. I mean, the DIY can just drop it to the Creeds, but
I mean, true.
We don't need Awesome Truth more than we already had Awesome Truth, right?
Well, I will say I am a much, 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 and I can't stress much more than that, bigger fan of these World Tag Team Championship title belts than the Raw Tag Team Championship title belts. I've been bitching about that for 13 years or whatever it is, that I hated those stupid copper belts, the bronze penny looking things. I hated when they were like, oh, we're finally going to switch over. It was like, oh no, all you did was just make them look like big nickels instead, or quarters. Those belts are some of my least favorite championships that I've ever seen. And this World Tag Team title, it's not like my favorite or anything, but it's still a massive step up for me. So
it's very round as I look at it.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of round designs as it is. Like, people go on, Fanboys Anonymous and Smark Out Moment, you'll see very few rounded fonts or rounded logos or anything. That's why the only reason why Fanboys Anonymous has a round one is because it's making fun of Alcoholics Anonymous. No way, not making fun of it. It's parody, that kind of thing. It's homage.
This is the most. As I look at it now, this is the most round championship I've seen
since 24/7 title.
Like but I don't count that. I was gonna say since the Big Eagle, like the world title that Austin and Rock and Hunter held. This is a very round design, but no, I love it. I think it looks great. I think I could see a world where the ones that Theory and Wilder are handed tonight are just these, but with the blue backing and WWE instead of World. But I would hope that they're a different design, because I like different designs for different champions.
See, I kind of think
Alan, have you looked at these belts at all? Do you care in the slightest?
Yeah, I mean, I have seen the belts, yeah. I'm not like that's tuned out. I think I heard someone describe it, and I think this is the best way that I've heard it described. It might be the greatest upgrade from one title belt design to another title belt design, and these title belts are just fine.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Because
I agree with that.
Because I can't get over the massive WWE in the middle. Like it just puts me off. I find it off-putting on every title belt they have, where that's like such a prominently big branded feature on it. And I understand the purpose for it. Like for them, it's smart because it means that they can hand this off to like a sports team or anybody else, and they can hold on to it. And you get that WWE branding onto everything, and that's smart from a business sense. Doesn't mean I have to like it as a fan. I think that it looks gaudy, and but I think that the actual the griffins on the side of it look pretty good. So it's definitely not the worst design. It seems like they have put thought to it, but yeah, it does look a bit too much like a dinner plate in certain aspects.
Now you said that the little silver backing to that. Now I'm gonna totally picture that this is like a plate of spaghetti or something.
It's one of those fancy plates you only break out.
It's the good china
or something.
So I think I can only presume that what Grayson Waller and Austin Theory will get will be this, as Rob says, we'll blue backing instead, and it'll be a white strap.
So my thought is, originally, before I thought about them just being lazy and doing that, I thought they'll probably get a black strapped women's tag team championship, which to me would be fine with blue lettering or a blue outline around it, which to me would be fine.
You mean like the same design as the women's tag, but it would just be, instead of where it says women's tag team champions, it would just say men's tag team champions?
Yeah, it would just say WWE tag team champions or something.
I mean, I like the women's tag title design.
Yeah, I think
totally down for that.
I think that they're great. Anyway,
I guess that it should actually bear more resemblance to both the WWE and the WWE Women's Championship, because they're kind of the SmackDown collective titles, whereas this title bears resemblance to the World Heavyweight and the Women's World Championship. So actually, it probably won't look the same as the other tag titles. It will look more like a circular version of the current WWE tag team, the current WWE Championship.
That might be ugly as all hell. If it's just
but as I think about that, I think you do end up with something. I'm going to pull up the women's tag titles right now, because you might be able to still have that same effect. Because I did think exactly like Callum, which is they need to have, something that looks like the WWE titles, because that's the vibe on SmackDown. Which again, why I'm saying don't draft the champions. Just don't do it. Keep it all looking uniform, and I think it's going to be a really positive thing going forward for the company that you'll have these belts. They look more prestigious. I know, look, wrestling's fake, but they look more prestigious than the stupid red.
Mm-hmm.
Especially by the end, it was looking like a toy on Raw. When Truth and Miz had it, they're just looking very flimsy, and I was ready to see them go, is what I'm saying.
I was ready to see them go the moment I saw them, so this was a long time coming, and you know how nitpicky I can be when it comes to even the gun barrel on a James Bond film, but this isn't what I would have done for some elements, like the world name and the red in the background and how round it is, but it's a massive step up, so, I'm not going to look a gift horse in the mouth, to use an old-timey phrase.
It's also but again, it is very clear Triple H enjoyed his era, where he was on top, because you can just see that's kind of what he's going back to as much as he can.
Which I wonder how much influence he had on when they were trying to figure that out. If he was I think you should call it this championship and have it look like this and all. He definitely really likes the big gold belt and world champion as that idea. So the more that we learn about these things, the more interesting it is, because we can kind of apply that to the future, and we can kind of go okay, if they ever change something with say the Heritage Cup or the North American Champion or whatever, we might kind of have a better inclination of where that's going. But the World Tag Team titles are on the line next week, and I quickly mentioned I think that we're getting not only the Chad Gable heel turn leading to the Creed brothers joining and doing like a Team Angle type version of Team Gable, but I think that they might be the next champions. DIY are challenging for them, so they might be the next champions.
I think there's nothing wrong with swapping it from DIY, give DIY a nice 2 weeks, let them lose it to the Creeds in a banger, let them trade the titles as often as they want. I don't want to see any more year-long title reigns. Put it to bed. Just let's have some fun TV. Let's have, fans excited to see, hey, maybe if I go to the show, maybe they change the championships. Maybe, you can't predict everything as easy as you could during the Roman Reigns era. And I'm very pleased with where WWE is right now. If you can't tell by the enthusiasm in my voice, I'm having fun.
I am enjoying a lot of things more right now than I have in a while. Yeah, it's the unknown element of it definitely helps because when you get to the patterns of what it used to be, and you're like, all right, well, if I skip 78% of this episode, I know that I'm not going to miss anything because nothing's going to be different. And now when they're introducing some new elements, and we are in an exciting time of the year too, so I'm assuming that there's going to be a lull that's going to happen in a few months or so. Like we're getting new titles, we're getting the draft stuff happening, it's post WrestleMania, so there's that buzz. But maybe they can keep this going for, quite a while. A new update as far as when it comes to, the Raw tag team titles and World Tag Team titles is to the WWE Draft logo. It's, not the craziest thing to talk about. I'm sure that doesn't really matter to most people, but I like the new draft logo. It's simple. It's
we'll be skipping Callum on this one.
I'm assuming so. Callum, feel free to chime in if you do have anything to say about it.
It's a nice looking logo. They're finally replacing the one that I think they used since I was at least a teenager. So maybe for a good 15 years there, they had that kind of regular WWE Draft logo. I like this one. It adds a little bit of yellow. It lets you know that people will be going to and from NXT. It's just another small victory. That's what WWE TV is right now. We're in a very, it's like if you're investing in stock for the first time and you're like, oh my God, I'm seeing small increases every 5 seconds. This is the best thing ever. It's just little wins and it's super fun.
I like how the draft becomes a thing about stock. The biggest news when it comes to that is that they just have NXT as a part of that. And it's always been kind of tangentially a part of things because they tend to at least draft one person, usually calling them up from NXT. But now it seems like it's even more going to be, we already saw Ava with Nick Aldis and Adam Pearce being like, we're going to negotiate things in the draft and all. And certain people seem like they are completely locked to go up. We already had some people move up like Braun Breaker and Tiffany Stratton. Carmelo Hayes is like done in NXT. We more than likely are going to get some stuff when it comes to Spring Breakin that can lead into some trades and all. I'm kind of assuming that Trick Williams beats Ilya Dragunov and wins that NXT championship and gives Dragunov a means to just go up. We'll talk Spring Breakin predictions in a minute.
I'm not sold on that, by the way. There's one thing I'm not sold on. It's the Trick element of it all, because I think he's not going to say he's good enough, but he's over enough to just go to the main roster.
Could be.
And
if they have that out that you have to leave NXT and then he gets traded to Raw or SmackDown, then yeah.
I think Ilya is so well fit in that system. And I know we're having a really strong, mid-card boom, and maybe they have plans for Gunther Ilya to be the main event. Oh, not the main event, but the finals of King of the Ring. But I think they're better off just keeping Ilya in NXT. But that's my opinion.
Well, as far as the draft logo is concerned, the only thing that bugs me personally about it, and this is very like you're in that, 0.5% that would have this kind of perspective, is that there's no means for me to just keep reusing the same logo all over the place because they have 2024 right in the center of that. So like I'd have to like edit this around, and you could see next week and when we have like the draft, like what should happen preview thing. Like I've edited the 2024 to say preview instead in like a similar font to just try to be like, oh, okay, I have that graphic. Maybe I can use that next year or so.
I love the random things that you bring to my attention that I would have never thought of otherwise.
About having the date on there.
Yeah, because now I'm realizing, oh shit, it sure does say 2024.
Yep.
In the middle. Nice.
As far as the NXT element of it, the logo itself, any thoughts, Callum, or move straight on?
I didn't know that they'd changed the logo of it, so I don't have any kind of comments on that.
Did you see it yet? Or I can
Well, it's red, blue, and yellow, essentially.
Yeah, I mean,
so you have seen it.
It's just the WWE logo. It's but they're not using that like weird sharp font with the whole. I never know what that was like supposed to be. That old font, not font, the old logo with the like the little button on the side. It's just one of those like it's a generic sports graphic thing or whatever. But
I think that was the whole point because they had the whole draft center element of it. Do you remember the robots?
Yeah. So, Vince is just sitting there. He's like, we have these fucking robots. This is great. It's going to really get people into. Nobody gave a shit whatsoever. I'm not going to miss that old draft logo. I like my sharp things. I just talked about how I don't like the round designs and stuff, but that was just like needlessly sharp angles and stuff. If you look at like the draft logo for like NBA and stuff, it's just the word draft written out. They don't have an actual logo. So I'm glad that WWE
that's not
did this.
Sports entertainment.
Right. I like that WWE actually is using the WWE logo and stuff. But as far as the NXT element, Callum, do you think that there's going to be any more like... Because they haven't said yet how they're going to do the draft. We're assuming that it's going to follow the same pattern as what it did before.
Well, you have 3 GMs. All you need to do is... what's the deal?
What's Ava gonna do then? Is she gonna like if it's a freeway thing? Is she just gonna draft like Becky Lynch as the first choice, and then and then Becky Lynch said, because it can't work like that. It can't work like when we're drafting things, when we're just like going things for we're just trying to choose the best people. Like NXT can't be in that because that means NXT are just gonna get. Oh, I draft Becky Lynch, and then I'll get Randy Orton, and then I'll get all these other people, and then Raw's left with fucking
Instead of Raw having AJ Styles, they end up with
hey, don't you doubt
Brooke
Zion
Jensen.
Quinn.
Yeah, Brooke Jensen and Boa and stuff. Like
Boa.
I don't think anybody's gonna end up with Boa. Sorry, Boa, you haven't been on TV in like 3 years. It's weird because it's like the way that they've been doing it, and we know that it is a 2-night thing. Again, they're gonna start it on SmackDown, then they're gonna switch it over to Raw. They've been doing this process of Raw gets 3 picks, SmackDown gets 2 picks, and they do 5 at a time on a block. And whatever they start off with, it seems like it's been that they start with SmackDown these past few years, and then they go and finish it on Raw. That's like, all right, SmackDown, Raw, and then they have like a draft pool for each night just to make it a little bit easier so they don't just go, okay, well, we draft the WWE champion and then we draft the World Heavyweight Champion. There you go. There's the 2 biggest men's stars. We draft the women's champion for the one brand, the women's champion for the other brand. Shit, everything's done in night 1. So I'm assuming that they're going to be doing the same, but NXT throws a real wrench into this because...
No, what you do is there's just a draft pool like they've had, and you do... Raw gets 3, SmackDown gets 2, NXT gets 1.
But even still, wouldn't Ava be like, all right, I'm drafting, like, say the first 5 people go through, and it's, the 2 men's and the 2 women's world champions and Sami Zayn. Let's just put that out there. If you were Ava, you'd be like, shit, I'm going to draft the United States champion. And then that's your top 6 champions. So I'm assuming that NXT isn't actually going to get something for the draft, that it's going to be more, we have NXT in the logo to represent that people are going to move between them, but that NXT isn't going to be represented as far as like Ava goes up and announces her next pick, that it'll just be by the time we get around to SmackDown's done, NXT, Raw's done, draft is over with, and maybe they continue the free agents aspect, which is like kind of a dud
Von
from
Wagner's
last year.
been free agent for a year. Oh my god.
Von Wagner's been a full free agent for the entire time. Zion Quinn was a free agent the entire time. And the only ones that make sense to be free agents are the ones that are injured and stuff. I'm expecting that to continue. And then I think we're going to see other people, whether it's on Raw Talk or is it SmackDown Lowdown or is it? Yeah, because it's switched from Talking Smack to SmackDown Lowdown. I think that they'll do supplemental things on there. And then we'll just kind of see, oh, and so was drafted to NXT. And then by the time we get around to NXT after the draft, it'll just be, surprise, fucking Otis is there. Or
yeah, it's a good one.
I think Otis is almost a guarantee, yeah. Maybe Akira Tozawa too, I don't know. But we will talk more specific brand switched up stuff next week. The logo itself, though, at least it indicates that NXT might be a bigger part of it. So, let's go back around to another story here from Monday Night Raw, just to, kind of keep that going a little bit easier. Sheamus returned, and of course, there's been people poking fun at him for being a little out of shape. He's poking fun at himself. The funniest one that I saw was Too Many Pies. For making fun of his song, but we're not here to like the body shame him or something. It's more so the idea of like, okay, cool, Sheamus is back. He seems like he's energized. And what do you guys think we're gonna see going forward with Sheamus?
I thought he looked great. There's nothing wrong with like an older Sheamus taking on the more bulky approach, because my God, we saw Jericho do it. Like,
I don't know if
Sheamus,
that's the best thing to be like, no, there's nothing wrong with this. Let's talk about Jericho.
Sheamus has the style that can fit that body type. I thought it was cool. And I like the new gear that he got from the MMA people, Venom. I thought all that was good. I thought the Too Many Limes song is back. That's fantastic. No matter where he goes, I think it's a thumbs up, because he is a major player for them. And if he's energized and can still put on the bangers he was putting on over the last 2 years, I think it's nothing but positive.
Banger after banger after banger. Who's the next banger?
Callum Wiggins is the next banger.
Callum versus Sheamus.
Yeah.
You ready to get a fucking bro kick, Cal?
Oh, I'm definitely in worse shape than Sheamus is. I'm not ready to take that on. I thought it was like quite odd that they decided to go with Ivar as the guy to face him, because hey, that's the guy that you're actually building up an NXT for a title match. You've got everybody else on the roster that you could use to put Sheamus over. But yeah, I think that you say like all the people making jokes about Sheamus's weight. That's, they probably had to like use some sort of device to wheel them into their desk chairs to actually type something out on Twitter in the first place. Because so I know that you have to be held up to a certain standard, but it's like he's not out of shape. It's not like it's an unattractive physique, and it's not one that is still not intimidating to the average person.
Yeah,
I mean, the most intimidating thing about
the shape that he was before, he knows that, but he's gonna fucking work on it. And he also came back earlier than he was expecting to. So
also, he's nearly 50 years old.
Yeah, like,
is he really?
Like, yeah.
Wait, how old is Sheamus?
I think he's 40. Let me have a look quickly. Like, he's 46.
Shit, I thought that he was only like a few years older than I was. Like maybe 41.
He just turned 46 in January, so like it's difficult to maintain that sort of physique in your, except unless you're using the sort of things that like Triple H would use. But that's like,
hey, we're not talking about AJ Styles, right?
Yeah.
I mean, shit, I'm 37 or or 30. Wait, how fucking old am I? I'm 36.
38. You fucking.
And yeah, I'm not in the same shape I was when I was 30 by any means. I hate looking at pictures of myself and then being like, oh man, there's more of me than I was before.
He's got a perfectly like fine body shape, and he can still do what he needs to do in the ring, and that's what's important, really. I mean, the most striking thing about Sheamus is that pale skin. Like that's the thing that you immediately get. If somebody's looking at Sheamus for the first time, that's the immediate thing they'll get their eyes drawn to, is the fact that, oh, well, he's got no pigmentation.
Yeah, I know full well how that goes.
And by the way, it's been this December will mark 15 years since he won the WWE title for the first time. So it's not like, again, like, he looks tremendous.
I remember being so pissed about that.
I remember being excited.
That was one of my first like big rants on Smark moment. An article about like,
was it that he won, or was it how he won?
It was that he won. Because I was like, this is ridiculous that they're pushing this guy so far, so fast, and like cramming him down our throats just because he's a Triple H guy kind of thing. And I wasn't buying Sheamus until I think he had won like the US title or so, and he started working on like Raw or whatever. It took a while for me to warm up to Sheamus, and then eventually I got to the point where I'm like, all right, yeah, this dude's a fucking future Hall of Famer. And then now, of course, 15 years later, it's like, this dude could have retired 10 years ago and been a Hall of Famer, and you know, he's awesome. So I'm really looking forward in particular to Sheamus versus Ilya Dragunov. That match is going to kick so much ass.
So, at least for me with Sheamus, I started out as a major fan because I'm always just excited whenever, like, okay, new guy, we can make a new guy. I really didn't like him during that I'm the babyface and I'm going to fight Del Rio 9 months straight.
Yeah, that was
really tough.
That was not my era.
And then once he did the bar, I was like, oh, Sheamus is great, and he's been great ever since.
To this day, I still, if somebody says something about the bar, I just think, we are the bar. It's just like, it's never going to go away. But, let's see. Anything else happened on Raw that we should bounce around? Andrade, Parker Niven, Jey Uso. We already talked a little bit about the Chad Gable turn. I don't think so. If we think of anything else, we'll bounce.
Yeah, we're not going to talk about what many people were dubbed online the greatest entrance in WWE history.
Was it the Sami Zayn thing with the camera angle?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was so fucking good.
Yeah, essentially, I had one continuous camera shot for, what was it, like 4 or 5 minutes, something like that.
Because you had Jey Uso just leaving the building
and shoving a fan out of the way for some reason.
No, because the fan wanted a selfie, and he was like, "We got time to, hit."
Yeah, get the fuck out of the way, dude.
He had that moment with Sammy, and then they just shot Sammy entering the building. That was so fucking great.
Yeah, I'm loving this post Kevin Dunn era where they're like, let's try to do something and see if let's not just have an exact template for every single possible shot that we have. And look at that. People are end up like, we got a tracking shot. I'm
just calling out the
all over the place.
Like, wow, the camera followed him to the spot. No, but it's great, and it made Sammy look like a star. And then he went and had a great match with Chad Gable, by the way. Fantastic match. So, but I thought Gable was definitely going to win. And then once he lost and Gable attacked Sammy, you're just like, okay, great. Like, they're doing stuff with people. They're making everything matter, and that's all you can ask for. Look, it doesn't match the star power of The Rock. Of course not, but I'd take this where everybody matters more than, well, we know it doesn't matter, so let's just not even watch, which has been the vibe for a long time now.
Yeah, so I'm digging that. As far as NXT is concerned, bouncing around some of this stuff, talk about some spring break-in predictions and everything too. I was kind of confused about why Noam Dar beat not Ilya Dragunov, Dijak. And I don't know where they're going with there. But we had a whole setup thing leading to Lola Vice and Natalya are going to face each other 2 weeks from now in an NXT Underground match. They're going to do a contract signing next week, which of course, like, woo, contract signings, fucking amazing.
Natalya's going to talk.
Yeah. Lola Vice is going to, I'm not digging Lola Vice on promos either.
She might not talk. She might just gyrate her hips and now.
Yeah, you know,
she
goes
is
herself and shake her hips, and then we're gonna love it.
She got a memo of like, just do that incessantly, because when it doesn't call for it, she's just doing that, and I'm like,
it's great. It's like her idol pose.
The character select screen.
Yeah, like you ever just leave, you know, like you leave Sonic just standing there and he's like looking at you.
Taps the foot.
She's doing.
Looks at his watch. Yeah. NXT Underground matches, they could be fun though, so maybe that'll be
it's the first cool. Women's one. I think it'll be good. I think Natty's gonna go to NXT.
I think that she would make so much sense to just stick around there for a while. Yeah. With NXT, it's kind of strange because it's like you send somebody that they're not doing anything on the main roster and you want to utilize them in another fashion, like Baron Corbin, and they can get like a second resurgence for their character, or you send people that you know are worthless and that it's like, all right, you're not going to do anything ever, and you might as well just sort of be in that position. So Natty, you know, she can impart her knowledge to the people that have been, you know, the new people. You can throw in like Otis and stuff that like they're not doing anything super crazy right now where they're going to be missed on the main roster. A lot of people that are kind of stuck in that range we'll talk about next week, but I think that Natty's here for at least a little while. And yeah, maybe this Lola Vice thing is just the start of all that, where she's going to start feuding then with like Roxanne a little bit more, where you know, Blair Davenport's got a beach brawl, no disqualification match against Sol Ruka next week.
Hey, we love our plastic kiddie pools and our beach balls and all that accoutrement that we'll see next week. And I think Sol Ruka's got to win. It's her match, right? It has to be like, if there's ever going to be a Sol Ruka gimmick match, it's this.
You would hope that she would win a beach brawl. Yeah. And to get, you know, revenge on Blair after all this time. Like if Blair just wins and it's like, okay, where do you go from there? Because I'm assuming that Roxanne Perez is retaining her title. She's going up against both Lyra Valkyria and Tatum Paxley and starting a little like feud kind of with Ava, where I guess it's like Ava's going to keep her in check for her attitude. Womp womp kind of thing. While Tatum Paxley, then she had cut a promo that she was explaining. And I actually wrote this down in there. Oh, you can see it on Smark Out Moment on the breakdown. I wrote, vignette: Tatum Paxley had no friends growing up, so she then obsessed over the NXT Women's Championship. Huh? What was the point of this thing? She's like, nobody wanted to play with me.
Before you continue to open your mouth, be very careful saying anything about Tatum Paxley, apparently.
Because of Meltzer?
Real quick, I have to get this off my chest. This is the only place I can do it. You're stupid for aggregating that. That's the man's opinion. And if he doesn't get it, fuck off. He doesn't get it. You don't need to pile on Dave Meltzer because he doesn't get Tatum Paxley, whether or not I agree with him.
It is kind of funny, though, that he's like, I didn't like it with Bliss. I don't like it with Paxley. I don't like Isla. I don't like
the character wrong.
I don't like Alba and Isla. And then it's like, okay, but what about Sky Blue and Julia Hart?
He doesn't like those either.
Well, he doesn't like the spooky bitch character.
I think people, just as a general thing with Meltzer, they overestimate how much he likes AEW over WWE. He actually actively dislikes AEW over WWE. He thinks WWE are doing a much better job with pretty much everything right now.
Has he been crapping on Julia Hart?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't like a lot about the House of Black's presentation about spook. I think
he doesn't like spooky characters. Period.
Yeah, he doesn't like characters that have an element of supernatural. He didn't like Bray Wyatt. He's never been a huge fan of the Undertaker outside of his actual wrestling and promo.
I mean, but again, like that's fine. Dave Meltzer watched Misawa and Kawada, and that's what he wanted to watch. My issue with this is that it was all over my feed for 24 hours, and it was just like, come on, guys. The man's allowed to have a fucking opinion. that being said, it's like this character for Tatum is fine. You know, she didn't have any friends, so she just started obsessing over the girls who won the title. That's like whatever.
So my question with that would be, why is she not now obsessing over Roxanne Perez?
Well, she kind of is. In that the whole, like, I'm attacking you, Lyra, because it's not yours anymore.
Yeah, but why is she not hanging out with Roxanne and trying to become friends with her now instead?
I guess because Ava immediately put her in a match for the title.
Well, she did say Roxanne's the coolest girl in class now. So that might set up that she might be kind of hanging around her, but I think that they, realistically, the way that they're approaching this is she's not because we don't want her to, which is like, all right, okay, come on, you know, like, suddenly Tatum is obsessed with this championship that she's been obsessed with for her entire life when she never really cared about it prior to the Lyra Valkyria story. It's just, you're not supposed to think about it, which is dumb. I hate that, like, suspension of disbelief, but I just kind of like, I like Tatum as, like, you know, doing the whole spoopy thing, but like the story of this, of like, people didn't like to play with me as a kid, so I became obsessed with specifically the idea of people holding the women's championship, and it's like, yeah, you might need to do a redraft for this. You know, I see where you're going, but you lost me on the, you know, the bridge has a few missing gaps on it. You can't quite cross it yet.
I mean, I've always taken a similar stance to what Meltzer was saying. I think that he's obviously he's taking the Paxley thing wrong, because Paxley's not a supernatural character. She's just a
a hot goth girl.
It's like,
exactly.
Okay, you don't like goth girls. Like, I get what like
Bliss is annoying. Bliss was annoying because she actually had magic powers.
Yeah.
The same way the Fiend had magic powers, the same way the Undertaker had magic powers, the same way Kane had magic powers. It's like, as soon as you go that element, and also in certain elements of House of Black have magic powers, it's like, as soon as you go that far, as long as if it's just an aesthetic and a means of playing head games with people, then I'm totally fine with it. As soon as you introduce mist that turns people alignments, or you can shoot lightning out of your hands and yet decide never to do it in an actual match, just in a promo segment.
Bray Wyatt's projecting holograms, and Undertaker is being resurrected through an urn, and you know.
Yeah, then you completely lose me. That's why I'm not. That's why. Well, you guys know I've never been the biggest fan of the Undertaker, especially in comparison to you. So it puts me off of it. Then when Undertaker is just like, you know, just wrestling, it's totally fine. But it's like, then he has to set fire to someone, or like be launched into be lifted into the air by apparently just by magical power, even though it's obviously a pulley system. But you know, it's like, so I just think that with the Paxley one, it's more just a case of she's just an obsessive character. And I do kind of, from what I've seen of looking at like recaps of it, I do get the idea of the fact that there's been a long arc with her, intentional or otherwise, certainly not intentional, but like it has now been utilized with the fact that she's been an outcast her entire time in NXT. She was basically part of the Alpha Academy, and then not Alpha Academy, Dynamite, and then got cast aside. And then she's basically been going from person to person, occasionally in some sort of like tag team or trying to find something to do, and then she just gets forgotten about. So at least they're adding an element is now that's kind of fueled her kind of angsty character, is the fact that she's just always like been an outcast in NXT. But at least they're doing something with her now. Not that I don't think that she's particularly good, but you know, she's focusing on the character work, which is basically all you need to redo in NXT. Talk about the other thing that Meltzer got angry about. Or got a lot of pelters about, but he talks about how Trick Williams isn't that good.
But it's like, again, like, I think that he's totally entitled to do that. I just don't like seeing a bunch of, you know, grown individuals being like, boo you and boo your opinion, sir. It's like, come on.
Yeah, it's always surprising to me how much stock people put into his opinion, because it's like, yeah, he's a notable name in the pro wrestling industry and all. But at the same time, if he's just saying his opinion, stop reporting it as like a fact or something. And then at the same time as well, even if he has an opinion that you disagree with, it's the fucking guy's opinion. Like, certain people love shit that I hate, and it's not the end of the world. You know?
It's not even that like out there an opinion. It's like he said that Trick Williams is insanely charismatic, and that carries him forward. So he's actually complimenting his charisma being able to elevate his wrestling ability. Trick Williams has been wrestling for two and a half years. Like, he's not like anywhere near a finished article in terms of his in-ring ability, and he does need to be carried to great matches by people who are much better than him. Ergo, his best matches have been against Ilya Dragunov. The matches that he's had against Carmelo Hayes recently, at least from what I've gathered, have been, good, but nothing special with the Carmelo Hayes ones. Was the steel cage match any good?
There was a moment in that steel cage match where you can tell that they kind of forgot the spots that they were going through, because there was a brief moment of just pause, and that was a bit awkward, but it's a fine NXT NXT main event for this era of NXT. We're not talking Adam Cole, Keith Lee.
Yeah.
So we're good.
So that they saying that I know the argument you're saying about him potentially not winning the title from Dragunov and going up to main roster, but like, he's clearly not in-ring ready at the level that Dragunov is ready to go up to the main roster.
Right.
I mean, Dragunov's been ready to go up to the main roster since he arrived in WWE, but like, it's just a case of you should utilize the fact that, first of all, he's going to be on TV all the time. Secondly, he's super over to the NXT audience. I'm sure he would be over to a SmackDown and Raw audience as well. But I feel like unless he was consistently pushed at the level that he's pushed in NXT on Raw and SmackDown, that fanfare would eventually die down, and then you're left with Trick Williams, the wrestler, and the wrestling ability he currently has is not good enough to sustain that momentum. Because essentially, you put Trick Williams up to the main roster, he has to not start all over again because people know who he is, but he needs to develop credibility with a new audience that doesn't watch NXT week to week. Whereas the NXT audience are totally bought into him, absolutely think that he's the best thing in the world and want him to be the champion. You take him up to the main roster, he doesn't have any credibility because he's never been a champion outside of like a really short North American title run. And then he needs to at least perform to a standard that people would expect of someone who is pushed to a mid-card, upper mid-card level. So I don't see any benefit of taking him up to the main roster just yet, especially when you've already got Carmelo Hayes going up there, you've got Bron Breakker going up there, Tiffany Stratton's recently come up there, and then you're probably going to add Dragunov as well. Like, there's plenty of people coming up from NXT already. NXT needs to have some star power remaining on their brand.
I can agree with that. My idea was more like, I don't know why I always use these two as an example, but like the Bliss and Carmella effect of, they got their seasoning on the main roster, they had enough character and charisma to just bypass that system.
My difference with that is that Carmella and Bliss were never really over in NXT.
That is fair.
Like, they were actually, because NXT at that point in time was very focused on like the women's wrestler archetype of like the 4 horsewomen coming up, and Bliss and Carmella didn't really fit into that one, so they actually were better served on the main roster. If Trick had never gotten to this point as over as he has, then I would say, oh yeah, you might as well just put him up with Carmelo as like his bodyguard and see where it goes from there. But yeah, I'd tell you that his only real potential of becoming like a growing star power in the main roster at the moment would be that you retcon everything that happened between him and Carmelo Hayes and you put them together as a tag team again, which would be odd, but
it's kind of what they did with Ciampa and Gargano when they finally got around to getting on the main roster instead.
But I think that, I know we'll talk about, well, as you guys probably talk mostly about the Spring Breakin stuff. I know at least the title match is happening, but yeah, I'm fully convinced that Trick's beating Ilya Dragunov, and that's cool because Dragunov goes up to the main roster where he belongs, really.
Well,
I think if Dragunov does go up, I think we're getting King of the Ring, Dragunov, Gunther.
I could definitely see that being a possibility, yeah. They had a couple other little elements of NXT that I don't know if it's going to really play too much of a factor into Spring Breakin', but like Sean Spears definitely does seem like he's going to be, teaming up with Rich Holland. I hated this whole Ariana Grace and Gigi Dolan thing in the park, and then they go to the dress shop and Gigi takes a pair of scissors that she suddenly had, and she's able to cut an outfit into a way that it now has other elements to it that was not a part of the outfit. Sure. Do you take credit cards? Here's like 8 of them, and let me, it's so CW.
To that
actually,
point,
no, it's not even CW. It's more Nickelodeon.
I do want to ask about this because in the NXT scoops for this week, Corey Brennan of Fightful reported that the show's name internally was Friendship's Last Breath. Now, how would you feel if we start getting title cards on NXT television when we go to the CW?
This is going to start like It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. Like, it's going to be like, hey, we're going to team later on tonight. You better not turn on me. Da, 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 da. And it's like somebody turns on somebody.
I kind of like it. NXT, I watch with somebody who loves the cheeky factor of NXT, and NXT is just a weird show and a weird vibe, and it's really grown on me, especially when we get to do stupid things like the mob killed Drew Gulak.
We gotta talk about this. So let me. This is getting its own timestamp. The Drew Gulak stuff with Ronda Rousey, we don't know how that's all going to play out. We talked about that before. Ronda Rousey accused him of like grabbing the string at her pants or whatever, or shorts or whatever it was. He says that he went for a handshake and that it's all, miscommunication. Seemingly based off of what they've been doing with Gulak since, which is nothing beyond what they did on NXT. It seems like they're at least going, well, we don't really buy into this 100%, and we are going to take you off of TV in the meantime to just let things die down, and we'll see if they ends up coming back or not. But
they killed. Who was it coming back from? They killed him.
It's a little harder to believe that he's going to come back when they start off a story where the Angelo family is now going to take on No Quarter Catch Crew in a 6-man tag next week for the Spring Breakin, because behind the scenes, they were propositioned to whack Drew Gulak. And once he was written off TV, now they don't want to pay up, so now it's a problem. And it's a funny way of doing that, because it's like, this is now the 4th person that the D'Angelo family has killed.
Well, they attempted to murder Pretty Deadly. They didn't get the job done.
They didn't fully kill them. They just somehow drafted them. They murdered 2 dimes.
It was sent to purgatory, known as Ring of Honor's weekly television every Thursday night.
They've at least implied, like, Joey Bag of Bones and like different kinds of people that have been, off screen and whatever.
So, like, the idea of this is hysterical. And then it's taken to another level of that Drew Gulak's not coming back. When you have Charlie Dempsey out there going, yeah, some trash needed to be taken care of, and you did the industry a favor, and you're just going, oh my God, okay. Like, this fucking guy is never coming back from this. And I mean, after a while, it's hard to not just go, you see that? That's good for being an idiot. But I thought this was great. I thought this was funny. I think it gives everybody something to do. Thumbs up for me. I just think it's crazy that they're just like, yeah, the mob killed them.
Way to turn a negative into as much of a positive as you can, in a hilarious way. What do you think about this Gulak being whacked off by the mob? Not whacked off in that way, by the
mob. Well, it's. I mean, it's. I guess it's consistent with the character. What they've done with, I don't know why the murderer is the baby faces, but we'll skip past that.
That's my thing. This is the guy who, like, 11 nights prior was like, no, I don't want to use brass knuckles to beat Ilya Dragunov, but you'll kill a guy.
Yeah. Oh, because, you're getting paid for that one.
you don't get paid more for being champion.
The overwhelming thought is, obviously, he might as well be done in WWE at this point in time. Like, there's no real coming back. I mean, as I say, they could, if that was the plan of, like, okay, we'll keep him off TV for like a year and then we'll just have him work behind the scenes. Maybe that's the route, but basically what everyone seems to be saying who's like in the wrestling space and is talking to people behind the scenes says like, if he's not fired yet, he's going to be eventually. And that the only thing I can think of off the back of that, and again, there must be more to this than just the Ronda Rousey thing. I think that's like, that's a indicator. And I say I don't know anything, but it just feels like something too innocuous, or something just a one-off incident. If it was just a one-off incident, to essentially have him almost erased from TV at this point in time, because they've gone beyond. It's gone beyond the point of just saying, "Oh, he got whacked off by the whacking off thing again." I've got that stuck in my head. But he got disposed of by Tony D'Angelo's family on TV, and then I was just going to turn up somewhere else on WWE programming, like Pretty Deadly did. But they both said not only did that, but then also cut as part of both their promos saying, "Oh, you took care of some trash in the industry, and now the industry's a better place now that he's no longer around." That's basically saying, "Oh, this guy sucked, and this guy is an awful person, and it's good job that he's no longer here." So yeah, then there must be more layers to this than just the Ronda Rousey thing.
It must be maybe he just wasn't well liked, or maybe they're just that determined with all the stupid Vince stuff to be like, "Yep, see, zero tolerance here."
Could be.
He said words, and we said he's now dead.
Potentially, yeah. But I mean, it's like with Drew Gulak's future, what it looks like for him is probably pretty bleak. There's zero chance AEW picks him up, because what would they need Drew Gulak for at this point in time? Then you're looking at Impact and lower is essentially his destination right now.
And that's, of course, like, they haven't said that he's released yet. For all we know, maybe internally he has been, and they just haven't announced it because they just don't announce anything anymore, which is incredibly frustrating. Or maybe they do plan on having him return, and it's just let's let everything cool down, and we'll see what we can do. Maybe we can keep you in the Performance Center, or we can do this, or we can do that. Until he pops up on television or they announce something or whatever, you have to just take it as, all right, he's being written off television, which isn't a good thing for him. And they're going to turn this into as good as they can. So, I mean, it's working out well enough that you got 3 guys in No Quarter Catch Crew. You got 3 guys in the D'Angelo family, and they can have a 6-man tag. And now we got a new feud. And if you want to put the championship on Tony D for not winning the NXT championship, he can win the Heritage Cup. Not my favorite option in the world, but you could have that happen. You can kind of milk this feud for a while because it is 3-on-3. So, the catch clause thing, D'Angelo could be fighting Damon Kemp for a little bit, or
hold on. There is a catch clause and there's a lawyer on the other side. I can see some segments here.
Yeah, there you go. It's some kind of, well, according to this part of the catch clause.
Yeah, I think that shit is funny.
They can have fun with this. Yeah, I think this is like turning a glass. You pour out half of the glass and then you say, "Well, the glass is still half full," kind of situation.
Yeah, we just got rid of the scum at the top. Like,
I don't know if I want to drink out of that glass if it's got scum at the top.
Well, no. We poured out the scum in the garbage.
That's mostly Spring Breakin that we had talked about so far. Javon Evans had a match with Ilya Dragunov, which that's another impressive thing from Javon Evans. So that's pretty cool.
He's great. I like that they did Wesley's scramble gimmick, and instead of just breaking through the pack, he just showed up behind him and
jumped over and just
right in front of him. Yeah.
Because Dragunov had said, like, to whoever locked eyes with me first, and he's just like, hello. And Ivar is going to fight Obafemi. They haven't announced it, I think, yet for Spring Breakin specifically, but it's,
that'll probably be night 2 of Spring Breakin.
Yeah, I'm assuming so. So, neat. Ivar probably maybe popping up in NXT going forward too. Maybe not. Maybe it's just a guest spot, but we'll talk more draft stuff next week. What do we want to switch over to now? Let's get one of the other WWE things, most of the WWE things out of the way, and we can get into AEW and New Japan and all. Actually, I don't have almost anything to say about this topic. I don't know if you guys have more that you want to get into, but there's been more teases of a possible Uncle Howdy type thing. The open door is welcome and makes strangers into friends. A lot of people
When did that show up?
That was the thing from this week. It was like you see the QR code and you go to the link, and then the link tells you this, and then that tells you this, and it's all this AR type stuff.
Well, yeah, the message I got was a different one. It was more like, "Hey, we're coming, and everything's gonna be all right." I didn't get the open door code.
That was like in the HTML code of that website.
Yeah. See, I like that. This is fun. It's a fun little game. Everybody gets excited. I think this is some good stuff too. I think it's gonna be. I don't know if it'll be Uncle Howdy. I don't know if it's Bo Wyatt. I don't know. I think it's definitely gonna be at least Rowan and Strowman, and I'm looking forward to that. To see what they do and how they carry on that legacy. It'd be a lot of fun for a lot of people, and get some fresh faces on the roster, breathe some new life into people. This could be really good for everybody involved, while also paying tribute to the original Wyatt family and Bray Wyatt.
Yeah, I mean, I don't have much to add to it other than what's already been shown. It's fairly obvious that Bro Dallas came back soon, and whatever iteration of other people that will be joining him, that's we'll wait and see what happens. But I do have to say that I find it quite hilarious that WWE, a lot of WWE fans are willing to go through, find this QR code that just flashes up for a second on the screen, and then go for the QR code, unscramble a website link off the back of that, and then go to that website link to find out information. And yet, if somebody from CMLL or Stardom appears on an AEW show, they don't go onto fucking Google and find out who that is. So
I think it's because the other thing is more fan participation. It's I'm gonna be very deliberate here with what I say. It's like watching Blue's Clues over watching something on the Discovery Channel. They don't want to learn. They want to feel like they're involved.
I'll say to the argument of that without actually, before I say to that argument, I don't like the Uncle Howdy character. I've said that before. I don't want to see Braun Strowman back in there. I don't want to see Bliss back doing that character, and I don't have the biggest fandom of Eric Rowan coming back and just being that guy again.
You want to see Matt Hardy? The Broken Hardy.
I don't want to see Matt Hardy in WWE probably at all, let alone doing the broken thing. So to me, this is I'm not looking forward to this. But to defend the ones with the CMLL thing, I do say that it does register differently, because it's one feels more like a book report that you're doing research for, and the other one is more like a game. So I can understand that, but it is funny that it's people can go through all the hoops and stuff, and then they won't just do a quick Google search for that. That's a good point.
I do like that we both used very childish things. You're talking about a book report, and I'm like, yeah, it's like watching Blue's Clues.
Yeah. Do you want a book report on Blue's Clues? Although apparently, I guess there's a lot of people that I know that they have kids that they are super into the show Bluey. I don't know anything about it, but there's more than one person I know entirely. That are but Blue's Clues reminded me that that's a thing that people
Bluey
are
fantastic.
I've got a 2-year-old niece that I live with. I know what Bluey is, so that's.
Isn't Bluey
Is Bluey good
for the age for the age range? Isn't it an emotionally
Bluey
show?
Bluey is. It's I'd say I've seen bits and pieces of it off the back of that, and it's it's one of those shows that it's obviously clearly aimed at kids, as you'd expect, but it has elements that adults can kind of, I would say, enjoy, but it's can resonate with. They seem to teach real life lessons. It's definitely a higher level than Peppa Pig or something like that.
Oh, fuck Peppa Pig. That's
it's garbage.
What's that stupid? We're in a side tangent here. What's that stupid show with the fucking? They're anthropomorphic rabbits, and they're really fucking lame.
Max and Ruby?
Yeah, fuck them one too. My niece, my oldest niece, used to watch that, and I was just like, "Oh, this is dumb. I hate this." But nothing's as bad as Dora.
It was always quick to change the channel when that was on.
Yeah. Anyway.
What were your guys' go-to like kids things when you were little? What were the things that you were watching?
Oh, mine was Blue's Clues and Little Bear and that era of Nick Jr.
I don't know if I've said this on the air or if I've just said it elsewhere or whatever, but so my sister's a few years older than I am. And apparently I used to shut off Sesame Street when she would watch it. I would just walk up to the TV and turn it off. Because I was like pure like Nickelodeon, Rugrats,
I was not
Doug.
a PBS kid.
There was very few PBS type stuff that I liked. And, some of that stuff every once in a while, because for anybody who doesn't know, my wife works for GBH. So she, every once in a while, she'll be like, oh, I was working on something. And it's like, Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego? And I'm like, fuck, I loved that show. That show was great. Some PBS stuff was pretty cool, but I was mostly predominantly Nickelodeon. Not even Cartoon Network. There's very few Cartoon Network things that I had ever really watched as a kid, but Disney, the animated stuff once in a while. Although, like, screw them for the Doug reboot. That wasn't as good.
Awful.
Yeah. Strange.
What did you get over there, Cal?
Oh, for us, it was kind of things like Teletubbies was a big one when I was growing up. That was like the big British one. There were things like the Tweenies as well, which was, and then I actually watched a load of things from like even older. Like there was these other ones like from like the 80s and 90s that I was like, well, obviously 90s was when I was actually growing up, but like things from the 80s that I was being introduced to, like things like Brum and Noddy and Bagpuss and stuff like that was like we're kind of like it was mainly a lot of stop motion stuff.
Yeah, that checks out. Did you guys get Bananas in Pajamas?
Oh yeah,
but I was too old for that.
The
age gap is a big difference between some of the kid stuff.
I think between that, the Wiggles, and Bluey, we can all agree the Australians know what they're doing when it comes to children's programming.
We were just talking about Doug. Here's another quick side thing just to point out how dumb my brain can be sometimes. I was trying to figure out a name, like just to say a random like John Smith type name the other day. And out of all the names that I was thinking of like, oh, it's just some Joe Schmo or whatever. I was like, oh, some guy's name. I don't know, like Chalky. And I was like, fucking Chalky Studebaker. That was my go-to, like the average person, Chalky.
What is wrong with you?
And as soon as I was about to say it, I just started cracking up, and she's just like, "What?" And like, I had to kind of explain like my thought process and whatever. And she's like, "Chalky is the one." I'm like, "I don't know." My brain's like, the regular names like Chalky. Chalky Studebaker was the fucking man, though. Shout out to Chalky. I don't know when we started this side tangent, so I'm gonna timestamp it at some point. But
so that's we went from Uncle Howdy to Mr. Rogers essentially, and I think that works.
If you want more discussion of these kind of things, go to fanboysanonymous.com. Little shout out to fanboys. We could probably do a whole probably we certainly could do a whole podcast just talking about that kind of stuff and just get into the differences between like Rocco and all. But we have to talk about another story here of WrestleMania, not the one that just passed by, but the one in the possible future of being in May and
WrestleMania.
WrestleMania. They have basically been taking this whole Philly was cold thing and making that a huge issue going forward, where they don't want to do WrestleMania during the same time frame, it seems, anymore. Either that they would do it in a different market that's not as cold, or that they would push it back where it's a little bit warmer.
Could literally just do an indoor stadium. Why do you need to be outdoors? Like, just do an indoor venue.
So the Minnesota one, that's got a roof, right?
Yeah, I mean, like, use the roof.
So, yeah, use the roof. And then you're good for next year. And then if you want to, they're tossing out Vegas as one of the options. WrestleMania 42 in Vegas. And then you don't have to worry about this for a little while. But I don't like the idea that they could eventually maybe push it to May.
I don't think they would. I think too many people plan their, breaks around that April thing to do WrestleMania. I think you're better off doing it like that.
I think not only is it kind of that last week of March, the first week of April or so is sort of built into the consciousness around that time frame enough that we should just not even entertain the idea of it being May. I understand that they want to leave their options open, and we are in an era where they're doing things that they've never done before. So yeah, they were probably looking at this and going, well, it doesn't have to be in April. It can be in May, maybe if all stars align. My issue with it is partially, actually, I would say mostly, I don't think that they have the legs for it. I don't think you could have the Royal Rumble at the end of January and then go all of February, all of March, all of April.
Well,
you spend a quarter of the year having one storyline for a lot of these things.
Who says you have to have one storyline? You have quarterly specials on network TV you got to get to. You've got a bunch of...
The Royal Rumble winner needs to go challenge for WrestleMania. So if you set up who the champion is, then you just wait 3 months to have that match. That's a lot of time.
I mean, my God, did you not sit through the entirety of the Bloodline angle that we just sat through? They can do it. And I think if everybody's around, you can do it even better. I'm not saying it's what I want to see.
I don't think that's a good analogy to be like, well, they can do it, and you prove that works, because to me it's like, well, that was frustrating. And
well, no, I'm saying like it can be done. I would like to see it done better, but I think WrestleMania in May isn't the craziest thing. I just wouldn't mess with it because at this point it's tradition. You know?
And I, for that matter, I wouldn't want them to move the Royal Rumble either, because I know that that's another thing that people would be like, oh, then maybe you just do the Royal Rumble in February.
Well, they moved SummerSlam to, granted it was like the last 2 days of July, but they moved SummerSlam to July a couple of years ago, and that was weird for me.
Yeah, like that isn't even as big of a thing to me. July, August, that should be the time frame of SummerSlam. Doesn't necessarily have to be the end of August for me, but Royal Rumble should be the start of the year. And if you start it in mid-February just to push back to May, then I feel like you're really wasting time, because they don't like to do stuff in December. And then you're just going to spend, okay, well then now it's from Survivor Series all the way until mid-February. Now you got 2 big gaps. I don't like that either. Like, I think that they've got a system that they still sometimes struggle with. And if the big issue is just, it's too damn cold, put a fucking coat on. Shut up.
No, there's indoor venues. Like, stop this.
There's indoor venues. They have those heaters that they used for WrestleMania 29 that proves that they can do the heaters. Do the heaters for the people in the ring. Tell everybody in the audience to wear a fucking coat.
It didn't work. Cody said he didn't do shit for them this year, so they had the heaters.
Get better heaters. They got more than enough money.
I'm not as open and shut as Tony here. I just think go inside, you idiots. Cal, any thoughts on inside, outside?
Well, inside, outside. I mean, fundamentally, their aim is to always put WrestleMania and the big 4 shows in the biggest stadiums possible. That's their goal, and that's Nick Khan's ambition, and so they're going to stick to that rigidly. And if that means having to move WrestleMania to May, then WrestleMania is going to move to May. Fundamentally, I know a lot of people credit like this new Triple H creative regime as the thing that's like added a lot of steam back to WWE. It's all pretty much down to Nick Khan's smarter management of the company. It's like a serious businessman is actually kind of at the helm of pro wrestling now, rather than like a crazy megalomaniac billionaire. And he's making smart commercial decisions for them, which is do a load of international shows to peak up your kind of global fan base, and then put every single one of your big shows in a massive stadium that's packed with 70,000 people. So yeah, they're not going to deviate from that now. It's never going back to indoor stadiums for WrestleMania or anything, or indoor arenas for WrestleMania or shows like that. This is the future, and it's wildly successful for them. So they're never going to go back from that.
Yeah, I hear you. Do WrestleMania in California, Florida, Hawaii's got a stadium, Texas exists.
But they are going to want to do things like WrestleMania in New York. So, that's a cold area as far as I'm aware. At the very least, it seems like it's a cold area of year end about March and April time.
What's your weather right now, Tony?
Warmer than it should be, from my perspective.
But they are going to want to do things in the Northeast because Northeast are big wrestling areas. So and that's kind of where their bread and butter is. So yeah, at the end of the day, we kind of have to get used to this is a different era of WWE in so many different ways that they are not going to stick to tradition if it gets in the way of making money.
Right. That's why I think that this is exactly the same as the way that they've approached a lot of other things, which is they had said, hey, Monday Night Raw doesn't necessarily have to be Monday Night Raw. It could be Tuesday Night Raw or whatever if we get a better deal from somebody else. And I mean, I think that if they can stick with what everybody's used to and it works out and makes sense for a lot of the money, then that's what they're going to do. But I think that they are in a viewpoint where they're let's not take things off the table. Let's hear pitches for things and let's see what makes the most sense. But I just don't like the idea of potentially them pushing it back another full month because I'm you don't have the legs for it. You've been proving time and time again, even in this more, quote unquote modern era, that there are a lot of feuds that you don't have that can stretch from November until May. That's a lot of time. LA Knight and AJ Styles and all that feud started in September, I think. You want to add another month to that? A month is a lot. It might seem like it's just, it's 4 episodes, but it's if you don't have the legs for
roster and you're treating them right.
But how do you do January 20th is the Royal Rumble. You set the 2 challengers, you have the 2 champions, and then you need to go through all of February, all of March, and all of April to get to the May thing. You got to go 3 months.
By not being a little bitch and by saying it's okay if they interact more than twice on the road to WrestleMania. They could fucking interact. They could fight each other on site every single time for the next 3 months, and then oh my god, they're gonna kill each other when we get to May 1st inside whatever Minnesota's stadium is. It can be done. I have faith that it can be done in a good way.
I don't have faith that they can do 24 episodes of a feud for multiple feuds. And that's only the ones that start in January. If any of them carry over from December or November or October or whatever, then you add several more weeks. But 24 to 40 shows worth of not being bored of the same angle, I don't have a whole lot of faith in that. Or you
simply don't etch it in stone. You make it more intriguing of, okay, your challenger is set, but who's the champion? And you make it believable stories along the way. Again, I think it can be done.
I'm holding out hope that they just get over how fucking cold it is. It's
that's something that I just don't see happening.
You mean them getting over how cold it is?
Yeah, because hey, if it's cold and that was an issue, maybe we can alleviate that issue.
Wear warmer gear. Insulate your fucking outfits, If people in the crowd, if they're all bitching, the crowd is cold, put on gloves, put on a second layer of, a coat or whatever. If you can carry your goddamn championship belt around and pretend like you're a champion, you can wear a hat. Shut up, Nobody that I knew that was there for Philly, and I knew a lot of people that went to Mania. Yeah, nobody that I knew bitched about it more than, it was a little cold, but fuck it. Everybody else,
they're all natives. 50 degrees for you is springtime.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, suck it up. If I go to Florida and I'm fucking hot, I'm complaining about the heat because it's not something I'm normally used to. But at the same time, I'm not going to be like, Florida should change for me. Everybody just suck it up. As far as people just sucking it up and quitting their bitching and growing up and all that kind of stuff, Fuck Oklahoma.
Oh yeah, fuck them.
This whole Nyla Rose thing. I don't even think we need to get too deep into it because it's as self-explanatory as it is. But hey, Oklahoma,
Stop
AEW is not
trans people for existing, you fucking weirdos.
And also, AEW is not real sports. So
that too, but
are you
more so the principle of the matter?
Are these people that run this Oklahoma Athletics Commission? Are they not only bigoted and problematic in those ways, but they're also fucking idiots?
No, they just athletic commissions just like being pains in the asses, so they can make more commission.
Awful. I don't know if you have anything else you guys want to say about that. I wanted to toss that out there as a big middle finger.
But it's just more indicative of just a wider problem in society beyond just this affecting wrestling and affecting Nyla Rose, and obviously AEW should stand up for her and everybody else, regardless. Like every company should be standing up against those sort of regulations and not paying heed to them whatsoever, regardless of what the consequences might be. Because it's a wider problem, like especially against like the trans community. It's very much like they are pilloried from all over the place right now for no reason other than just wanting to be comfortable in their own skin, and and they're not doing anything to hurt anybody else. It's just it's a very disgusting mindset, which sadly seems to only be getting stronger with every passing year at the moment.
Yeah.
So, which is really
frustrating. You would hope that it's getting more into a progressive mindset, but it seems to just be getting like more and more people are getting more and more belligerent against it. And I guess the reason is because there is a growing tolerance understanding that this is totally fine among like younger people, but then that just fuels the older generation, so they need to be more aggressive and more locked down on it because other people are starting to realize, it's not a huge deal. Like this, like why should we be so upset about it? So they have to go. Those people have to go harder in order to combat the just natural order of things, which is people understanding that this stuff is like, it's totally fine.
I mean, today somebody not that far from me set themselves on fire in front of the Trump courthouse to make a statement about how something it doesn't align with their views and stuff. So, all I can say, all I can say for all people that are kind of anti-trans, I'll hand you the matches.
But he's right. Like what? The thing that gets to
come on, we need those people gone. We can't. There's no changing their minds or educating them. They just need to be gone at this stage.
The thing that gets to me is like, I genuinely feel like 10 years ago, this wouldn't have even been the extreme battles that it's become in the post-Trump era. Like, I just fucking let people exist, let them go about their day, and you'll be able to go about yours. It's that simple. You want to fuck with them, so they're going to be in your face.
You're not going to hear any arguments against these point of views from my perspective. I'm fully on board. But that also brings up another topic that is merged in together. Supposedly, one of the things that Vince McMahon has been up to recently has been in frequent contact with Donald Trump with the idea in mind. So I don't know how much this, like, you can buy into this and how much is like, yeah, this is exactly what it is. But that he would be looking for, like, hey, if you get elected, which I'm crossing my fingers is not going to happen. You might disagree with politics on this podcast or whatever like that, but we're giving you opinions and stuff. So, yeah, whatever. But that, like, Vince might be looking for a pardon with this whole thing in mind, which is just disgusting. And
I think, well, first of all, I think he keeps up with Trump because he just keeps up with Trump. It's the same thing like Rock and Cena still keep up with him. You know, I think that's all that is. Do I think he'll get a pardon? I think that's the furthest thing from Donald Trump's mind currently, given all the shit that he's got going on. But yeah, if the stars align, maybe at some point, sure. But I think it's just a matter of birds of a feather in this case.
Yeah, I think Trump will be far too focused if he got back into office and spend. He has to dedicate the next 4 years to either find a way of, one, establishing a dictatorship, or two, destroying America.
Well, he's got to pardon himself first.
Yeah.
Then
Go watch the movie Civil War. People should watch the movie. It's good.
I am very eager to watch the movie Civil War.
You said birds of a feather. How many stones do we have? 2 birds, 1 stone.
Well, I don't know about that, but Stone Cold did get both of them, so there's that.
For anybody that's still listening and isn't all pissed off at our politics, thank you. You're one of the good ones.
Also, if you clicked off because we talked politics for 3 minutes, then buck up.
Yeah, suck it up and put a coat on. It's not that cold out. Let's see. I guess let's talk about this. Marigold is the name of Rossy Ogawa's new promotion, and they seemingly are going to have at least some kind of working relationship with WWE. They have tossed out some ideas of like maybe Io Sky might do some kind of a show in the future. Of course, Julia has her ties in with NXT right now and wanting to help launch Marigold and everything. We've been kind of joking around about this, but do you guys think that this might end up officially becoming like an NXT Japan-esque type thing?
I'm going to say no, because I think that they're too specifically woman-focused to be an overall NXT promotion, but I think it's a good place to send talent.
I mean, first of all, Tony Khan was right. This guy was a double agent for WWE. It's like that he was the blockade between them working with Stardom in the first place. Well, we got Stardom talent onto Findor until now, and now we're going to get them on TV, so that's good. But I think that as I say, this is a good working relationship with WWE as it would stand, of having a Japanese promotion, which at the moment is still very much burgeoning, but it's taken some big names from Stardom like Julia and Utami Hayashishita and Mirai over from there. So there's some people that have like some name value from Stardom. They've only got, as far as I'm aware, about 7 main official roster members at the moment, and most of the other ones will be freelancers, which is kind of like how a lot of promotions in their infancy start out with. I know they shot some kind of angle where it included the Great Muta's daughter, who's also a wrestler, now coming through, and I think she sprayed mist in Rossy Ogawa's eyes, and he didn't sell it, so that was funny.
He did not sell it at all.
What did he do? Did he just like?
It was actually they got it in the eyes, and he just he just stood there and maybe just started wiping it off his eyes a little bit.
Yeah, he was just kind of wiping his face.
As if he got like a little bit of water in his eyes in the shower or something.
But yeah, they'll probably work together. They've obviously WWE has a strong contingent of Japanese women's wrestlers that they can send over to there. They send over some of their other like talent in NXT and even the WWE main roster to send over there to get some more reps and experience against some experienced names there. And obviously Marigold would benefit from having the WWE exposure there as well, because they would highlight, if say Kyrie or Io go over there and have a match, then they would promote it on their own TV shows as well. So that adds to so it could be a mutually beneficial partnership. I have no kind of issue with that. It's a smart thing to do. My one kind of caveat to all of that is the WWE has in the past made some kind of, relationships with companies behind the scenes. I know we're in a different era, but when they do make those relationships, it's usually with the goal of subsuming that company at some point and just essentially owning it. Like things from where you're looking at stuff like from Progress to Evolve, essentially just took that over, starting off with kind of like a feeder system working relationship, and then essentially just taking the company and doing nothing with it.
It starts off as feeder, then it becomes feed me more.
Yes, exactly. But I think that let's say it's a different era, different mindset. Triple H and Nick Khan might have different ideas to what Vince McMahon once had. So almost certainly in many respects. So yeah, maybe this will just be a typical like smaller Japanese women's promotion, tying up together WWE and both sides getting benefits from being aligned with each other. But yeah, we'll wait and see how it progresses. We're not going to know in the first few months, or maybe even the first year of this happening. But yeah, at the end of the day, like, it's kind of all benefit for the right people. I mean, WWE get to get their hands on a kind of a Japanese promotion to be a good system to build the experience of their own wrestlers, and also be able to take some of their wrestlers over and find this kind of mutually beneficial partnership. And AEW now have Stardom kind of in their partnership as well under a different management group. So essentially both sides got what they wanted. So I don't think anyone can really complain.
What do you think about the name Marigold?
It's different from Shine and Shimmer and
Stardom and Glow and Wow, and that's the first kind of switch up.
I like the name Marigold.
It's a weird name for. I think it's a weird name for Western audiences to consider.
Mm-hmm.
I think it works because you've got things like, if you look at some of the women's promotions over in, you've got some more ones which are more typical. I mean, Stardom you wouldn't immediately assume is a women's wrestling promotion. You've got the more traditional sounding one like Tokyo Joshi Pro. That's obviously a women's promotion with the Joshi name to it. But then you've got things like Ice Ribbon.
Ice Ribbon is fun, by the way. Nice third tier promotion.
Yeah. Or is it like there's one called is it Choco Pro or something like that?
Yeah, it's Choco Pro, like chocolate, like Choco Pro.
Yeah, so I think it fits into the aesthetic, which is that the women's wrestlers in Japan are very much akin to idols, which is obviously like Japanese pop stars and stuff like that. So I think it fits into that kind of scheme of things, and everything is like, it's all based on what I've seen, like some of the images of it. It's all the branding is very marigold and yellow and all that stuff. So yeah, I think it'll be one that just grows on people over time, or people just become familiar with, and they'll be known for their actual wrestling as opposed to the name itself.
I was a little bit surprised that it wasn't some kind of like Star Shine kind of thing, but it works well enough. Real quick mentions. I don't even think we need to do separate timestamps on these. Freddie Prinze Jr. says that he's like shopping around his stuff a little bit more. He still hasn't said the name of his company or any of the people that have been involved or anything, but maybe something for us to pay a little bit more attention to. Maybe some more news coming up in the future for that.
Yeah.
And it's funny as it is, because I'm burned out on certain types of wrestling. I'd be into a bit more of a Hollywood approach, a bit more of a Lucha Underground style promotion, if that's what this ends up being.
I mean, I've been saying for a while we need another big name promotion in like the North American thing to kind of, with both the WWE and the AEW rosters being overly bloated with talent. It means that you need to have another competitor in there in order to take some of those on board. I mean, fundamentally, we're not talking. I don't see anywhere on our breakdown for list of topics today. We were going to talk about the Rebellion pay-per-view for TNA that's taking place.
TNA
this
is
weekend.
having a Rebellion pay-per-view,
and we don't, and nobody cares. Like their renaissance lasted a good like
3 weeks,
month or two. Yeah, month or two, maybe.
Well, the minute that they lost Scott D'Amore, people knew something was wrong, and then they lost Shelley and Sabin recently. They just had their last match on TV last night, and they'll probably be in AEW by next week. So, unfortunately, TNA is already flipping back down the importance ladder. But I'd be down for this Freddie Prinze Jr. promotion. I'll be honest, I wish I knew more. I think it's a great idea to have another powerhouse.
Hobbs?
No.
Come on, you know you're going to set up that.
Yeah.
I'm more interested in the idea that if he takes a different approach to things than if he just wants to have another exactly the same type of promotion as everything else. I'd be more willing to watch whatever Freddie Prinze Jr.'s thing is for at least 2-3 weeks or so to see what it is, than to, hey, why don't you tune into NWA? I already watched that for a month. Wasn't my thing. And whatever he calls this, I want to know the name of it more than almost like anything else. I want to see what his ideas were and who he could even have in the mix for this, because I don't track the indie people, and most people that I think are big enough names are signed with companies now. So I know he wanted to have Bray Wyatt, and I know he wanted to have Karrion Kross, and Bray Wyatt's no longer with us, and Karrion Kross is on SmackDown, I guess kind of technically more on NXT. Of course, we'll see how that plans out with the draft. I guess really quickly, if you want to mention it, do you have any predictions for TNA Rebellion? I know some people are probably hey, why don't you talk about it?
I think Dolph Ziggler will become Nick Nemeth will become the TNA World Champion by defeating Moose. I believe that the system of Eddie Edwards and Brian Myers will retain their tag titles over Mike Bailey and Trent Seven. I think now that Matt Cardona is out with an injury, unfortunately, it's less likely that Steph DeLander beats Jordan Grace, but I'd be interested to see where that goes. Jake something would be a great TNA X Division champion, but people really dig Mustafa Ali and they like this character. I like the matches. I don't really dig the character. That's just my take.
Not being somebody watching, but seeing what I've seen of him do this character elsewhere, I still just don't understand why this is like such a big passion project.
It's just LOL. I'm kind of doing politics. I'm kind of riffing on Trump. It's not for me. I am excited for the Eric Young, Frankie Kazarian Full Metal Mayhem match because I'm perpetually living in the past. That's fun for me. I think the last man standing match between Hammerstone and Josh Alexander is fun. I think Hammerstone should win there, and we should make new stars. I can see Rich Swann with AJ Francis and maybe somebody else in their corner beating Joe Hendry. And I think Danny Luna and Jody Threat will retain the TNA Knockouts tag titles over Decay because they've got Lars Fredrickson of Rancid by their side. I would also suggest that the Rascals, along with Myron Reed, who is another Rascal. Rascals, by the way, being Zachary Wentz, better known as Nash Carter to Tony, and I was going to say Desmond Xavier, but that's Wesley, and Trey Miguel. So them and Myron Reed are back together. I can see them winning over ABC and Leon Slater. And there's also the lights out tease for somebody new coming into the promotion. I'm going to guess that's Santana.
Yeah, I don't have anything else to add. I didn't even know most of the matches that Rob was talking about.
As you can see, I'm the only one that watches TNA.
Very much so, because I saw that Nick Nemeth was going to fight Moose, and that's the only thing I knew about the entire thing. But I agree. I guess actually we double back to this quick thing. Lola Vice had said basically, I'm going to have a big surprise for who's going to be in my corner for the underground match with NXT. Natalia is going to have Carmen Petrovich in her corner. So who do you think is going to be with Lola Vice?
Did she really?
Yeah, she's all like,
is it just Shayna Baszler?
I'm kind of assuming that it's Shayna.
Yeah, I would assume it's Shayna Baszler.
Be a little weirder if it was just like, surprise, surprise, it's Nikki Cross or something.
Van Zandt.
Paige Van Zandt. Yeah, she's still listed on the roster page. She probably still is. It's so stupid. Do we want to talk about how people are really crapping on Def Rebel? Or is it just
I think it's funny.
It's self-explanatory.
Their theme songs are just generic. It's a problem when you don't know who's coming into the Royal Rumble, period.
It's also a problem if your go-to fix is to just say, we're going to say the name of everybody. And the worst being Naomi right now. I hate her theme with the whole N-A-O. We get it. You're already to the ring.
Yeah, I think Naomi's one of the few who's actually okay, because it's Naomi doing it.
I will take that over CEO, though, in AEW.
For some reason, I just keep thinking, it's been like 5 years since she's been released, but Billy Kay.
Yeah. I do see that people are making fun of this a lot more, though, with People are like, oh man, imagine how they would have done these other things in the past where instead of the Undertaker's gong going off, that it would have just been him being like, rest in peace, and then whatever, or like John Cena's theme would have started off with I'm John Cena, then it goes da 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 da. Like,
well, I'm glad people are catching on, but we've been beating this drum
for like 3 years
since Billy Kay. Like,
yeah. What's Jim Johnston up to? Just hire that guy back. He was great. All right, let's switch over to AEW then. So tangentially, we'll talk more AEW in a moment by proxy of this, but we have a new IWGP World Heavyweight Champion. Jon Moxley is the new holder of that belt, and that is going to obviously play into future AEW stuff, but obviously even more so future New Japan stuff. What do you want to break down from that event that just happened?
So, Windy City Riot, that took place on the Friday. I thought this was one of my favourite shows of the year so far that I've seen. I thought that for the vast majority, a lot of the matches on this card were excellent. I can go through most of the stuff, like Ren Narita against Minoru Suzuki was just, your fun. Minoru Suzuki murder grandpa match, and Ren Narita got the victory, which is important based on what happened later in the show. Stephanie Vicaire versus Azumi for the Strong Women's Championship was one of the best women's matches I've seen all year so far. Like, even though it only went just over 10 minutes, I thought they worked really well together. Azumi is really making a name for herself now stateside, which is great to see, because she had that. It was actually had that, and then the very next day she fought Toni Storm in that match on Collision, which got rave reviews as well. It was Toni Storm's probably best match under her new gimmick. So, but yeah, that was good to see. And then she was challenged by Alex Windsor, who's Will Ospreay's partner, to be to challenge her for be the next challenger for the Strong Women's Championship. So that's it's good to see. Good to see some new stuff happening. The Mighty Don't Kneel of Shane Haste and Mikey Nichols, formerly TM61, won the Strong Openweight Tag Team titles in the Four Corners Tag match. So yeah, the Strong Tag titles are still their own separate thing, but it's nice to see TNDK with title belts, because they're always kind of the perennial runners up. So it's nice to see them actually win a title for a change. Shota Umino beat Jack Perry. Jack Perry got a huge reaction coming out to it, in terms of a huge negative reaction, but that was what you would have wanted. He he had the big jacket which had scapegoat across it. Towards the end of this match, he hit CM Punk's a running knee into the corner.
Shining Wizard and the clothesline, right?
Yeah, the Shining Wizard clothesline, and then he mocked that he was going to do the GTS. He got Shota up, but Shota got out of it. Shota then hits his version of the Death Rider to get the victory. The one thing I didn't like about this was they had Jack Perry shake his hand on the way out. So I'd show respect. I think he should have just gone. We know that he's not going to be back in New Japan. He's going to be probably back in AEW as soon as Dynasty. So I don't see the reason why they had to babyface him to the audience or make him be respectful for Shota at the end of this. I think they could have just moved on. Mustafa Ali defeated Hiromu Takahashi by pinfall. Again, just with everything involving Mustafa Ali right now, I thought this was disappointing compared to considering the two wrestlers involved. It's probably one of my
steroids is Daryl on.
I wouldn't want to speculate.
For Tony and those that don't know, Daryl's a stuffed animal cat, and for some reason this cat looks absolutely jacked or dead on Friday night. I think that's great that he's on AJ Styles' diet. It was a fine match, like Callum says. I like Mustafa Ali in the ring. I'm just not over the moon about it.
I think the thing that was most notable is that he cut the promo that he cut after the match, which went a little bit got a bit of its day in the sun on Twitter, which was beyond just his usual now political stance. It was talking about how he was imitating about the idea about the referencing things like the Vince McMahon sexual assault case and stuff along those lines, things that are just weirdly happening in wrestling, about a guy making the headlines because of some broken glass, rather than talking about the issues that are taking place in Gaza and stuff like that. So So I think he was using that as a platform to say, like, why is everyone getting so... Basically, what a lot of us end up saying is, why is everyone getting so worked about wrestling? There's a lot of bigger issues in the world right now.
And that's why I will always, like, Ali as a person is easily the best person in wrestling.
Yeah. Then the Riot Rules match. So you had David Finlay, Kenta, Clark Connors, and Gabe Kidd, essentially just Bullet Club members, beat Eddie Kingston, Homicide, and the United Empire's Jeff Cobb and TJP to win, which again is almost certainly going to set up Gabe Kidd versus Eddie Kingston for the Strong Championship somewhere down the line.
For Resurgence in a no ropes last man standing match.
Wow, it's a nice stipulation. Zack Sabre Jr. beat Matt Riddle for the television championship. This was just a TV title match. It was totally fine, but then Matt Riddle was Matt Riddle, which meant that after getting pinned by Zack Sabre Jr., he then immediately walked out of the ring and just like started slapping hands with the fans and just like, no selling the defeat at all. Like, he's just an unbelievable prick, and should not be, and like no major company should be giving him the time of day at this point. Nick Nemeth beat Tomohiro Ishii, which makes me in a good match. It's pretty. Yeah, I think they tried to really push the whole Nick Nemeth strong style, and he's part of this. He can do the New Japan style. I think it was a little bit too on the nose for me. It was like, oh my god, you're showing me that he's doing it, but then the match is happening and it doesn't feel the same way. And then Moxley beat Naito, really good match, and yeah, I think it's great that he's the IWGP World Champion. He was immediately said that he's going to challenge Shota Umino will be his first challenger, but before Shota Umino could come out, Moxley was attacked by Ren Narita. So what's going to happen is that at the next big show, which I believe is Sakura Genesis, I think is the next big show.
At least on Wikipedia, it says Wrestling World in Taiwan.
Oh, no, that's the show that's happening in China, which is like separately from it. So it's not that one. It'll be the
Dontaku?
one. It could be Dontaku. I can't remember off the top of my head, but essentially, whatever the next big New Japan show is in Japan, it'll be Moxley defending against Ren Narita, and then the winner of that match will face Shota Umino for the title at Resurgence. So Moxley already has his next two, well, as long as he beats Narita, but in theory, he has his next two New Japan title defenses set up. And then presumably, if he was to win both of those ones, which I would argue is probably likely, his next big defense would either be at Dominion or at Forbidden Door.
So Dominion, does
that's
that
usually
come
in early
before?
June.
Okay.
Yeah, it's usually in early June, whereas Forbidden Door's in late June. So he probably would have a title defense at Dominion, and then if he was to win that, then his next defense would be at Forbidden Door. My speculation or my prediction would be that he loses the title back to Naito at Forbidden Door.
Now, Forbidden Door is June 30th, so the likelihood that Dominion's going to be before that is probably really low. And that it isn't going to be before that because, it's not going to be the 31st.
Dominion's usually the first week.
Yeah, so that's a few events that he would need to get by to be able to do that. But if they put the belt on him, there must be a reason why other than to just do it for the sake of it. So I think that there's a good chance that he's holding that heading into Forbidden Door, and that could be a good way for them to just do something big with Moxley for that, where, if he's defending New Japan's title on an AEW pay-per-view, and that's where it changes hands, whoever they want to have as the next champion, winning it then, that could be the biggest possible stage that you could do it, really, outside of just dragging it out until like Wrestle Kingdom or something. But I don't know if there's like a go-to plan of here are the next 5 people he fights, and then it's going to all end up with that person. But it could even be a rematch, maybe he dropped it at Dominion and then they get a rematch on there or something. And, depending on what New Japan would want to do. Obviously, this is more of a New Japan call than an AEW call. But it's kind of neat that Moxley is the IWGP champion.
What's kind of neat is that whole big post of, for the first time since February 2020, no members of the Shield are world champion, lasted like 5 days. The Shield runs the industry, and they always will until they're all retired.
Yeah, I mean, it's super cool for Moxley. He becomes the first guy to hold the AEW, WWE, and IWGP World Championships. So that's obviously a cool feather in his cap. It's quite weird that actually there's more people that have held the IWGP World Heavyweight Championship that wrestled for AEW than New Japan Pro Wrestling, which is kind of funny considering the fact that title's only a couple of years old. Because it's Moxley, Okada, Ospreay, Jay White, and Kota Ibushi are all AEW wrestlers that have that title. Even though Kota Ibushi doesn't feel like it, he's still technically under contract at AEW. And then there's only 4 people that held the championship. It's actually Takagi, Sanada, and Naito. Only 3 people that are still part of New Japan Pro Wrestling that have held that title. So that's a bit crazy to think about. So maybe AEW does have more say in this, in what happens to this title than New Japan do. But yeah, it's cool to see. It's cool to see Moxley holding the title.
Still curious to see if we're ever going to get any kind of announcement of like Tony Khan having a part ownership of New Japan or something. I'm anticipating that could happen in the future.
I think it's a matter of time at this stage.
So let's go. If that idea you don't like.
Well, no, because
I don't want another monopoly.
Yeah, and Ring of Honor's not doing great.
So let's talk about Dynamite and anything leading up to these updates to Dynasty and round out the hot tags that way. There were, like any other pay-per-view week, some elements that just specifically led into the pay-per-view and some other things that are just there for the sake of it. A lot of matches like Deonna Purrazzo against Mariah May, supplemental people from Tony Storm and Thunder Rosa and all. I was a little bit surprised, honestly, to see Julia Hart and Brody King win their match because I was leaning more towards the idea that the trios match would be a loss for Copeland, and now I'm kind of questioning that a little bit.
Well, he didn't get pinned.
No, but it still kind of made me go like, I don't know. Because I was also thinking that there was a chance that Julia Hart could retain over Willow. Now I'm not so much thinking that. And
I think it just sealed in people's minds that Willow's winning the title. It's at Dynasty, which is the right move.
So we do have 2 matches that have been added to the card for this, but before we talk about the
fucking main card or just 0 hour?
Because when we talked about Dynasty, there were 8 matches on the card. There's now 12 matches on the card.
But they had even more that I'm not aware of. I thought
there are 2 new matches on the kickoff on the buy-in show as well. So I can run through the other ones because the other ones are pretty inconsequential. So they're doing Trent Beretta versus Matt Sydal.
Oh,
which is
what?
well, that's built off the fact that because Matt Sydal hit, Trent Beretta hit Matt Sydal with a steel chair on Dynamite in the face. So when he came out to prevent them from helping stop the attack from Shane Taylor Promotions on Orange Cassidy, so that makes sense to the match. That it's not a big build leading into it, but it makes sense as like just a pre-show match. And then the other one, which is fairly inconsequential, is Orange Cassidy and Katsuyori Sparta versus Shane Taylor Promotions off the back of Orange Cassidy getting beat down by them on Dynamite. So
they're just dragging out Orange Cassidy and Trent then for a little bit longer.
Not having them fight.
They'll probably fight at
maybe Double or Nothing.
Arcade Anarchy. Remember that match? We'll do one of those things or what's the beach match? They did some kind of beach match once with Cassidy. They should do that again.
And then the 2 obviously main ones are they're finally doing it as we expected. The Acclaimed and Billy Gunn versus Bullet Club Gold in a unification match. And Tony Khan specifically said this is unifying the belts.
So yeah, I want to talk about that because he said this on the media call yesterday. Not a lot of websites picked it up. At least I know Fightful was kind of like, oh, we got bigger fish to fry or whatever. He kind of made it sound like they're being unified. Period. But I'm also like,
unification hasn't meant a lot in the past couple of years.
I am gonna put this out there. Tony Khan never ever said that the Continental Crown was a complete unification of those three.
He didn't. You're right on that. You're right on
he
that.
He said that was a Continental Crown, which is the same thing as like a Triple Crown thing, where it's still all three individual titles just unified under one name, or presented under one name. So you could either defend them as all three at once, or you could defend them separately. Whereas this one, he's specifically saying that he's going to unify the titles.
Right, that's the right call. It should just be get rid of that fucking ROH 6-man tag.
No, you just made new belts. I know. Look, he's got a lot of money, but come on now. You just made new belts.
It's not like the titles disappear. It's not like they vanish into thin air as soon as like they're unified. Someone will have those titles somewhere.
That's fair.
It's a case of there should only be one kind of roaming set of trios champions. You don't really need to have more 6-man tag titles because fundamentally the 6-man tag titles so far have been a bit of a dud because they've held it on the Acclaimed for way too long. Essentially, your trios title should be your party match almost at least once a fortnight, if not every week. There should be a fun, exciting trios match with the titles up for stake, and they just don't do that, and I don't know why. But yeah, Bullet Club Gold win the titles, so I'm looking forward for that.
I don't like Jay White being on the 0 hour of things.
I mean, the Feud deserves it.
I guess, but he had Jay White in better positions.
And then I was super looking forward to this show, and I'm still looking forward to a lot of this show.
You knew they were gonna add Jericho, you little crybaby.
But it's just a case like you had this really good call where you could basically say like, oh my god, from an in-ring perspective, this might be one of, if not the best AEW show they've ever put together, just from an in-ring perspective. And then you have to fucking throw Jericho on it. Like, why do we need Jericho on the show?
I will say I'm more interested in this angle than I am the alternative where it was just Hook is sitting under the learning tree, and man, he fucking hit those trademarks this week, didn't he? It was like the Jericho Vortex, the rarefied air of Jericho, the learning tree, the blah, 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 blah. He's just like, let me just say all these things that I think might catch on, and I trademarked in advance.
I think that was a legitimate... I'm typically the person who does a lot of the trademark stuff, so maybe I'm reading into this too much, but I think that was like a legitimate, like, all right, you fuckers, you want to keep reporting on all this stuff I'm trademarking? Here, I'm going to throw it all out in one promo so you don't know what any of this shit is for.
I think it's for that, right? It's just like, I'm going into this assuming that the FTW title is changing hands. That Jericho is going to, quote unquote, prove that Hook is not as good as he... Somebody's going to help
Jericho beat Hook.
Yeah, exactly. That it's going to be like, you are not as good as you say you are, and you should have listened to me. These people, or this one person, depending on if it's a faction or if it's just like one person, they will be willing to sit under the learning tree or whatever, and they're my new protege and whatever, and I'm going to hold
you all into the vortex of Jericho, whether you want to or not.
And I'm going to hold the championship because this is another one that I haven't held yet. So now I can, at this point, almost go through the whole list of championships and just be like, I want all of them in AEW, and I'm not holding the world title hostage. I'm doing something separate. So now Hook can work his way back up to winning the FTW title. That's what I'm kind of assuming.
I can envision a scenario where I think Jericho's still going to win this match. Don't get me wrong, and it'll be due to somebody that's going to be part of his new faction interfering. But I can definitely envision a scenario where he wins the FTW title and he celebrates with it, and then the next episode of Dynamite he destroys the title championship. Maybe
because we're creating a new Y2J champion.
but it's just a case of like that title. I mean, that title isn't a real title. It's not a recognized AEW championship.
I gotta say, if he destroys that title, I think that's another sign that maybe he's an out. Because for God's sake, they were defending Taz's title in AEW.
I mean, it could just be a sign they just want to move on from that and just like move Hook into something where he's not having to constantly, because essentially, because of just who he is, he'd have to be always intrinsically linked to that championship until that championship goes away. So maybe this is just their way of saying, okay, we're not going to have that title because that's like a crutch to him now, because otherwise he's just got to hold it, or he's got to be feuding for it because that's his father's title. Like, it was fine for the time of him holding it, but he can't just be attached to that for the rest of his career. He needs to,
I think you could get away with doing something if you wanted to do that and have Hook be like, cut a promo where he says like, hey, look, I want to move on to bigger and better things. It's time to retire this belt. And you do that.
Oh yeah, I definitely also imagine a scenario where Jericho wins the title, but then he hands it off to whatever his protege is, and then he basically crowns his protege the FTW champion instead of him. And then Hook beats him for it and then retires the championship. It could also be leading, and this is just like absolutely wild speculation, which I don't believe for a second, but it would still be fun. Would be very funny if a Double or Nothing the match is Jericho and his protege against Hook and Taz.
Yeah. I would pay good money to see Taz choke out Jericho.
But apparently Taz does have a pretty bad knee issue, beyond the fact that he hasn't wrestled in like 20 years.
And his neck issue stuff.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so. But, you know, next heel is Saraya and Edge and Adam Cole in the show. Maybe
that's pretty much everybody but Big E Langston.
Yeah. But yeah, as I say, I'm not super excited for this match. It's the one I'm least looking forward to on not the whole card. Like obviously the kickoff, the buy-in matches are buy-in matches, but in terms of like the main card, that's the one that I'm least excited about. But you know, then let's see what they come up with at the end of it. There's
a little snippet of time. You're like, oh, the kickoff. I mean, the buy-in. It's like, well, no, now it's 0 hour and the countdown.
Yeah, 0, yeah. It's like, I don't care. It's a pre-show.
Yeah.
I don't care how you brand it, whether you're AEW, WWE, whatever. It's just a pre-show. So that's
I usually just, if not to be salty about it, I usually refer to everything as the name and then the words pre-show. Like I'll be like the 0 hour pre-show, the countdown, whatever pre-show. Cause I'm like, fuck you. It's a pre-show. NXT Target, whatever. That's pre-show, whatever it is. Any other stuff on Dynamite or anything else you guys want to wrap this up with? I think we ran through all the hot tags. We got everything that I had in advance.
Yeah, I think that covers pretty much everything. Or at least all the big things. Yeah.
Nailed it.
Alrighty, everybody. Well, you know the score. Drop your thoughts in the comments below. Tell us what you thought about what we said and what other topics that we talked about and any other kind of things you want to chime in about. Keep in mind that we are going to be having that AEW Dynasty coverage on Sunday and the post show immediately following. Probably going to be a solo edition of just
me.
Probably
poor solo Tony, yeah.
Yeah, not solo Sokoa, solo Mango. And the, fallout of that stuff we'll talk into next week as well, too, and get into not only the hot tags and everything, but we got a big draft week coming up next week where we're going to not only do the Fantasy League draft and kind of pick our teams for this next season and everything, but also do what should happen with the WWE Draft and get into more specifics about who should be swapped around between the Raw, SmackDown, and NXT rosters and what you can do with those championships that are going to be settled in some fashion next week. We're going to have a new Women's World Champion. We might have new Men's World Tag Team Champions. We'll more than likely have something to talk about with the SmackDown Tag title switching over into something else after that happens in 2 hours or so. And we'll talk about the first week of Spring Breakin' too. Lots of hot tags coming up in the future. But in the meantime,
here's one for right now.
Have we got another breaking thing?
Not necessarily breaking, but Becky Lynch was on the Late Late Show in Ireland, and she confirmed that Seth Rollins had knee surgery on Tuesday.
Oh, so that makes perfect sense then. That it's like, man, I'm going to get through WrestleMania, then take some time off, and hopefully he's back super soon and kicking some ass. So keep in mind, of course, Discord, chat it up there. In the meantime, drop your comments below. Check out the Darkcast. Check out the main event from this week with the predictions if you didn't already check that out. And check out everything else that's on the link tree. Go to amangotree.com. You'll find links to all sorts of different stuff over there. It's pretty self-explanatory. It's literally just a link farm. And anthonymango.com is the exact same thing. So follow me on those places and follow Robin Callum too.
Yep, you can follow me everywhere at Dude Felice. You can check out my work on Fightful.com. You can stay tuned to anything else I have going on by just checking out those social media links. And most importantly, you can find me here on Smark Out Moment because if you can't find me anywhere else, I'll probably always be wherever Tony is. Callum?
Yeah. You can follow me on Twitter at Wigmeister14. You can check out the Power Rankings every single weekend over on smarkandmember.com, where I rank the WWE superstars based on their previous week's performances. It's in the burgeoning weeks of the new season for that, so check that out to see who will be kind of leading the way for the rest of the year so far. And then you can also, not at the moment, but very, very soon, we'll be able to check out the Fantasy League pretty much as soon as a week or so, really, because that's when we'll be drafting our teams together for our rosters for the year ahead. You'll be able to find out all the new rules, how we're going to be approaching this thing, and then see our full rosters, and we'll see who ends up being the champion by WrestleMania next year.
I just signed up another year of WWEFantasyLeague.com yesterday, so that's a quick means to pop one over to the Fantasy League side of Smark Out Moment, because I make it easier for everybody. And, stay tuned for all that stuff and more over this next couple days. In the meantime, keep checking out Smark Out Moment. Follow us on Facebook and Twitter, and we'll see you when we see you. Thanks for watching, everybody. Adios. This has been another Smark Out Moment, and we're being counted out.